We're at the halfway stage in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship Season 2, and the speed is about to increase as we head to the World Centre of Racing for Round 3. Only 2 points separate the top 4 in the WTCR Trophy, and given the enthralling racing we have seen in the European races of this championship, we have come across the pond expecting big things from these races tonight. Coming up, 30 minutes in the WTCR Trophy and an hour in the GT3s later on as well. So very much hope you will enjoy the racing. My name's Ewan. I'm alongside Cam Rodger for this. Lewis McGlade will be here later as well. And this circuit, I've got to say, Cam races well in any category of car. But around more normal circuits, more difficult circuits, we've seen quite a lot of bumping and banging throughout the season so far. So goodness knows what we're going to see today.
Yeah, this is going to be fast and fierce, especially that slipstream all the way towards turn number 1 out of the famous bus stop chicane, newly renamed, of course, the Le Mans chicane. It's going to be a very fast race indeed. Even in the touring cars that we're going to see first up, they're going to be hitting some speed. There's going to be massive slipstreams, hopefully some pack racing as well. And I think that's just going to keep it pretty spicy and not really knowing who's going to win this race.
Absolutely, that was the idea right till the very end of the last WTCR Trophy race that we had at the Red Bull Ring. You may have caught the highlights put together by Lewis McGlade on the RaceRoom's YouTube channel. At the very end, it was Andre Fosto who managed to take the victory very narrowly ahead of Frank Denez and Baujas Noj as well. And as I said in the intro, top 4 are separated by only 2 points in this one. That's Bence Farkas, who's leading. Then we've got Noj, who I just mentioned there. Sebastian Rey is also tied, only 1 point behind. And then Frank Denez is only 2 points behind in 4th place. I don't know, Cam, whether I've ever seen a tighter championship as that. I know we've only had 2 rounds, but there's only 2 rounds to go as well. So there's a lot of, there's a lot riding on this race.
Yeah, especially with just everything that can potentially happen in some of these races. It's pretty interesting to see that 4 drivers have consistently been there towards the top, and we don't really know who is going to come out on top here at Daytona. And as you say, we're getting halfway into the championship. Interlagos coming up next in 3 weeks' time as well. That is also a track that can bring up some surprises. So it's good to see, as you say, 4 drivers, 2 points, 2 races left, and yeah, we really don't know who's going to win, and that's why we're here to find out today.
Yeah, that's exactly why we're here. It's a nicely assembled calendar here. We're done with the European legs of this championship now. We're off to America and then the South America a little bit later on, of course. Just to tell you a little bit about the GT3 Pro Series that I'm sure that Lewis and Cam will get into later on in the stream. Max Pfeiffer has a 16-point championship lead there as he tries to retain his title from Season 1. So very much worth tuning in and staying tuned in for tonight's action. It's going to be very, very good indeed. But as I was saying the other day to somebody off air, Cam, Daytona is not a very exciting circuit to drive, I'll be honest. It is pretty boring. But to race on, it's very good indeed. Even the track layout doesn't look that appetizing, to be honest, but it is a very it's a very good place to go racing, maybe not driving.
Yeah, these rovals that we get all over the US and other places, it's certainly an interesting one. It's a weird dynamic to try and fit in a road course around an oval layout of a track, but I would say they've done pretty well here. This course itself has been around for years and years and years, as you see there, 1985 for the road course, and it's just got bigger and bigger in stature. And I think you're right, one reason why it races so well is just because of the amount of slipstream around here, and also the corners aren't too difficult. They're mainly just the hairpins and of course the bus stop chicane as well, so that generally keeps the pack close. And then all the slipstream as well, it's massive around here. Both of those straights coming out onto the back straight and then around NASCAR 3 and 4 towards turn 1, they are a couple of kilometers long each. They're very long around here, and that's why you're going to see probably maybe even 3 or 4 wide on the first lap.
Absolutely. At the moment, practice is just coming to an end. We'll be joining qualifying very, very soon. But I can tell you that there's 8 drivers within half a second in that 90-minute practice session, which bodes very, very well indeed. Because, of course, while everybody is out there on the circuit together, slipstream not really a factor in the practice session. But even when they're left to their own devices, they're very, very close in terms of lap time. So it's looking very, very good indeed. Sebastian Rey has topped the top the practice session, I should say, by only 33 thousandths ahead of Baujas Noj, and Bence Farkas is in that 3rd place. Frank Denez down in 5th. So the top 4 in the championship, all in the top 5 here in this qualifying. Very interesting to see, though, that these guys have managed to end up quite so close in this championship. It's certainly a point system, Cam, that I think Lewis will be a fan of. 6 points between first and second, which is quite big, especially when we're talking about 2 points separating the top four. That gap between first and second is big, and the race victory, the battle for the race win, is going to be huge for the course of this championship.
Yeah, so when you have those bigger jumps, you basically get a situation where it really rewards winning a race. So even these drivers who maybe then end up having a worse day here or there, you have had your reward from getting that win, and really Farkash is benefiting from that. He didn't have the best round last time at the Red Bull Ring, but getting that win in Hockenheim was so important to him that he can have that bad round and still be leading this championship. So for someone who really wants to try and get themselves a win in the championship today at Daytona, that would be a very good opportunity to do so.
And on the reverse from that, we saw in the first round, Andre Fosto did not have a good time of things at all in that one. Finished down in 17th at Hockenheim, but won at the Red Bull Ring, and all of a sudden he's only 10 points off the championship lead. So you can really turn things around very, very quickly. Indeed, same goes for the GT3s a little bit later on. Of course, we're just transitioning right now between the practice and qualifying sessions. There's a few drivers still out there getting a bit of practice in for now. But it's a very nicely formed, nearly 30 cars on this grid right now, ready to go racing and ready to qualify, first of all, here at Daytona. It's going to be pretty important. You're going to want to stay out front, really, and stay out of the trouble that may happen down in towards turn 1 and 2. It's one of those opening sections of corners that is not particularly easy to negotiate, especially on that one, although you do have all that space on the outside of the corner, I suppose, so you can sometimes get away with it. But now there's already been a contact and already been a couple on the way out the pit lane for whatever reason, but it's a bit of a mad rush. Only 10 minutes around here. You think of Daytona as being not that long, but actually it takes these WTCR cars in 2 minutes, so there is a bit of time pressure on this.
Yeah, there certainly is if you want to get those extra laps, and that is why everyone is bumping the bargain, almost trying to get out. You are right, it's about 2 minute lap time, which is pretty long considering that technical session seconds just to get down the pit lane. Such is the length of that one as well. It's a big 2.5 mile and we have an increased length of that with the section as well adding onto it. So it is a super long track. Can't really see how these cars do around here, but despite it being so long, with, as we previously mentioned, how it's a more simple layout, so that was generally pretty close. So I am expecting just a blink of an eye to be separated from the guys behind.
There's only 33 thousandths between 1 and 2 in that opening practice session. It's going to be very close indeed. We focus in on the Cupra of Frank Brown bluish sort of livery for Baljas there. Looking very nice indeed. But yeah, just warming up the tyres more than anything and setting themselves up for the opening lap, because as I said, it just takes them a while. For whatever reason, the pit lane these days, it used to be let out on the end where the NASCAR exit is, but now it's probably around the first couple of corners is the exit, and so you do have to stay on the pit limiter for a bit longer, and it takes everybody a bit longer to get round. As you can see, these guys are very much towards the back of the train right now of starting their lap times. Nearly everybody is out there. I think Mike Pasvenko from 4th place in the practice session, the last to leave pit lane, and only just has now. There you can see, well, he's barely left pit lane now. So he's going to be taking a very long time to get around. It may not be the worst thing, because he's going to have free track space. However, I do wonder at a circuit like this just how much slipstream is going to come into it. How much are these guys going to be fighting for slipstream in this qualifying session, or do they really want to be on their own like you would be at most other circuits?
There's always that balance, isn't it? If you are trying to get slipstream, but then you end up actually holding each other up, of course you end up going slower. So like these cars, the two cars there behind Sebastian Ray, they're going to be holding each other up a little bit and just sort of getting in each other's eyesight and just being that little bit more distracted. And that's something that you certainly don't want to do. When Sebastian Ray, he's just going to have the track ahead of him. Clear track, clear mind, can just do the fastest time possible. Of course, when you go onto the straights, that extra tenth here or there, that is certainly going to be available. But sometimes having just a clean, undistracted lap can be faster.
Absolutely. I have often seen that, actually, especially at circuits where TCR qualifying does lend itself to kind of everybody searching for a bit of slipstream. Those who just focus on themselves and try and do the best lap that they can tend to succeed, really. We'll see if that's the case here in this one. Sebastian Rea makes his way down towards the bus stop chicane. This is exactly what we mean about the drivers, or certainly I don't enjoy driving around here. There's a lot of time spent on the banking and just going in a straight line. As you can see, very technical bus stop chicane to negotiate as well. These front-wheel drive cars not particularly ideal for getting your way turned in for that second part, particularly through the bus stop chicane. But now they are out again. Once again, Rea's got nearly 20 seconds left of this lap, but all he's got to do is go straight to the line, and there's absolutely nothing he can do to improve his lap time from here.
You say that, but the line is very important as well. These kinks, as you see coming up here through the tri-oval, they are very important as well. And that is just already just a few thousandths behind Dinez, but it looks like it's Popov already with a 0.4 at the front.
Yeah, straight away, Popov been able to overhaul Rea, who's not done a great first lap, it has to be said. He's a few tenths away. Noj and Dinez and Popov have all been able to go quicker as Frank Van Roon comes towards the line for Bausas Esports right now, right on the double yellows on the left-hand side there. Not a representative lap time from him, you wouldn't imagine, as he makes his way into turn 1 to try once again. About half of the field have now been in, and here we go with a couple of teammates maybe helping each other out in a couple of Renaults here. This is Farkas making his way towards the line right now, and he's going very quickly as well as the championship leader. Over the line he goes. It's a 1 minute 57.0. It is good enough by quite some way, 0.4 of a second. I think it does just show that when you get the slipstream right, it goes very well indeed. That's nearly half a second.
Yeah, that's almost impossible to come back just on pure driving pace, such as the closeness of these guys. But here is Popov now, maybe getting a bit of slipstream himself in that Alfa Romeo coming up towards the bus stop chicane. That Honda you can see just closing in the foreground, and that every last bit could work, and it seems like it has. He's a 10th up there in that middle sector and a little bit more in the first as well, and this is going to be a huge run through NASCAR 3 and 4, and this could be another improvement, just showing you if you can pair up with someone, you can get yourself to the front of the grid.
Absolutely. Popov did seem to benefit on the run towards the bus stop there, but didn't seem to have a great time through the corners. He's going to gain some of that back now, but I don't think it's going to be quite good enough to overhaul the Renault currently leading. Up towards the line now for the Moldovan. We'll see if he can get anywhere near. He's very close, and it's very, very close. 87 thousandths of a second, but he's not able to do it. Dinez goes up to third place there as well, just up there. So nice lap from him. Here's Bausas Noj through. He improves, but it's still fourth place for him. Rear, fifth place, so you can see all four of the championship contenders once again in the top five. I guess Popov is a surprise package from these opening moments because he wasn't anywhere near the top five in practice, really. But he has now turned up for qualifying. Slightly bizarre to see, though, that out of the 28 drivers, not many of them have been able to actually get lap times on the board, which seems strange because, as we've been talking about, it's not overly difficult to string a lap together here, even if it's a bit slow.
Absolutely, it's one of the more easier tracks to finish a lap. The only real corner where you're pushing the limits so much is that bus stop chicane, but for sure you've got to be making sure that you're not getting yourself held up and getting yourself involved with someone else trying to do their lap. With the slipstream, as we've seen Dinez here coming out onto the back straight, and slightly slower in that first sector, green for him, but slightly slow off the best by 28 thousandths of a second, and we'll see that coming to an end, the sector 2 coming to an end as we enter that bus stop chicane. But for sure no real slipstream this time around for the third place driver, and just ahead of them is our driver that we're looking of Popov a little bit last lap, who's actually got another slipstream coming this time around as well. Oh, that's too much though, into the bus stop. That's too much on the brakes, onto the rear, losing it, and Dinez there into the wall and back to the pit lane. He's not going to have enough time to come out, because remember, once the session hits 0, that is it. You can't finish your lap.
Yeah, that will be it for him. So a shame, but that's it. Third place at best. not far away. Rear might be able to improve. I think we've not seen all from Pasemko either, and he just does improve into 4th place there. He's starting his final lap right now as well. He won't have time for another one. There's Orban here, another one of the very strong drivers actually in the WTCR Trophy. Nowhere near, well, he's not got a lap time on the board yet, that's the problem. His rating is the 5th best out of anybody's in this field right now. Rating, of course, it basically shows you in RaceRoom just how good a driver is, to boil it down to its very simplest terms. And Orban should not be 23rd in all in all. He's yet to set a lap time, of course, and so we're about to see where he can get to now. Purple in the first sector, a little bit down in the second, and he's going to have no help on the straights as well through the final sector, so you'd imagine it's going to be probably 3rd or worse here, but let's see. Looks a yellow flag here that briefly gets cleared as well, so let's see for Orban as he comes up towards the line now. Can he get anywhere near his countryman at the top of the standings? No, he won't. 6/10 of a second down, 9th place. I think that does just show you just how powerful the draft is in these final sectors. I think we're about to see it from Farkas as well, because when he's gone 700s faster in both of the first 2 sectors, he's got no help here, and surely he won't be able to improve.
We will have to see on that one. He might be able to improve on his himself, but now be a big lap though if he can even go even faster without that slipstream. Boatti coming towards the line already with that pole position, with everyone else behind him in the pit lane. Can he go any faster? I don't think he's going to be able to do so, but it's certainly a very good lap indeed to take that pole position from Popov, and Farkas, your winner of race 1, back on top, at least in qualifying here at Daytona.
It is going to be Farkas leading the field away for a half-an-hour race very soon. Popov will be alongside him with Denes in that 3rd place. Then we've got a surprise late lap from Philip Sandstrom there to get onto the 2nd row. He jumps ahead of Mike Pasemko, who's in 5th. Bowsas Nodge will be disappointed with 6th, and Sebastian Riehl will be disappointed with 7th. Those guys a little bit far down. Andre Fosto, after his victory last race, is down in 8th. Orban with that late lap is 9th, and Bowsas Polgar gets into the top 10 in that qualifying session. Not long between qualifying and the race here, not long to get yourself mentally turned around and the car physically turned around, ready for half an hour of racing, and it's going to be half an hour of breathless racing, I am sure as well. Very much a lot to look forward to in this one.
Yeah, we saw some very chaotic races at the Hockenheim Ring and the Red Bull Ring, so I'm expecting something a little bit the same way, especially on lap 1. Everyone trying to get themselves a place in that train before we get out onto the banking for the first time. It's going to be a fast and frantic race, that is for sure. Look out, though, for the likes of the drivers getting to the front of a little train. Look at them getting absolutely freight trained and slipstream past if they're not careful and getting bad exits as well. So it's going to be a bit of a slipstream game over the course of the race, but of course with 30 minutes and a bit of time management in there as well, the best drivers should be able to come out on top.
Absolutely. It is going to be a standing start here for the 3rd round of the WTCR Trophy in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship Season 2. Farkas with that nice qualifying. He's going to hopefully convert it into a nice lead through turn 1. Everybody gets away cleanly and very well upon the banking of Daytona. They switch down to get the benefit of gravity down towards turn number 1 as well. Farkas is going to protect the inside line. Everybody goes for the inside. Bowser Snots goes for a huge slide. He gets hit again as around goes Orban. Maybe that was. No, he's still going, but Orbital looks like he's gone around in the mid-pack. And there's more crashing in the background as well. Oh, dearie me, it's been a very, very messy start from turn 1 and 2.
Certainly has. We were expecting that a little bit further, but already drivers trying to find their way into a position. Unfortunately, cars were just there, hitting the wall as well, which is not necessarily something you see around here, as the walls can be quite far away, but in turn 1, everything can certainly happen. People know just how important it is. It's such a shame to see that already there's going to be a few drivers out. We've got Bozo is out of the race, and Van den Toorn as well. So that is not the way that we want to start this race. Even more contact happens as we come towards turn 6.
This is all the fight for 5th place, which is getting very physical early on in this one. Pasemko on the inside line ahead of Fosto, who's had a nice start there, actually. A couple of places gained. He's trying to get to the inside. The Renault of Orban's there, and they've made contact. There wasn't room for Fosto to come down there on Orban, who was holding his line as he had a right to. Of course, Fosto didn't want to get hung out to dry out wide on the banking there. And in the end, they've both gone off and lost places. This has all allowed the top 4 to get away. It's a dream start for Farkas, who's not been challenged as of yet. Popov is in second. Denes starting to high up that position, and Sandstrom just enjoying the ride in fourth right now. It's a dream start for the top four, but especially Farkas as well.
It's such a big, because of the banking around here, about 30 degrees, it's such a big drop down to the apron that your wheels get caught. They completely change the geometry, and unfortunately that was just the battle of those two drivers there with Orban getting pushed off. But back towards the front, as you say, Dinez getting that slipstream towards turn one. But just look at Farkas, he's going to struggle to hold on to this. Almost 3 wide as we come for the lead to end lap 1.
Oh my
massive!
word! Farkas is off in a big way, and the championship leader, pole sitter, goes off in dramatic fashion. Dinez goes down the inside into turn 1 and 2. Popov goes wide, and Sandstrom might go from fourth to first in one corner here. He's not quite going to manage it. Dinez is going to retake the lead. Sandstrom going to go back to the back of the group once again. That was very bizarre. Farkas immediately DNS from this race, and all of a sudden we're going to have a new championship leader. It was looking like a dream situation for him. Not 1 minute ago. It's all fallen apart.
That is incredible to see an accident like that, and that's exactly what I was saying just 30 seconds ago about that massive difference between the banking and on the apron as well. It just causes the car to bounce and to get up on those wheels, and that was an absolutely massive crash for the championship leader, and he is going to have to recover from that just in 3 weeks' time at Interlagos. But back to this race, Orban is getting certainly up the way, but these drivers, they have just been going. We thought it was going to be a bit chaotic, but they've been certainly going over the limit and pushing each other in every single position. Hopefully they can just calm down a little bit, as there's still 26 minutes of this race. We want to get as many drivers to the finish and having a nice race. But back to the front, Dinez leads now with Popov behind, but Sandstrom is there as well. And these guys need to watch out, because they could do the exact same as we saw last lap.
Well, we saw this, I've got to say, the manic opening, a calming in the middle, and then a manic ending as well. But I wonder whether we are going to get a calming at all here, as Popov is almost too close to make a move here on Dinez. He's going to look to the outside line around the banking, and now he's going to go for it a better. Well, he's not really in an ideal place. You don't really want to go up wide on your own at the banking there, and Sandstrom's going to have a dream run here, although I'm sure he does not want to be part of this at all. He seems to be the most sensible driver in this field so far. We go on board with him right now. He's got no interest in any of this. Look at him lifting off almost before he's got to the start-finish line there. Dinez and Popov allowed to battle it out between themselves. Sandstrom staying out of it as Pasemko makes his way up to fourth place. Sandstrom will now Popov will now go through on Dinez, who I think went wide into turn 1 and 2, very possibly, as Baujas Noj tries to make his way down the inside of Sebastian Rear. Important championship points between them. They're 3 wide. That was all a big squash, and somehow Baujas Noj ends up in fourth place.
Absolutely can't forget about these two drivers. Joint second place, just 1 point off Farkas, who is now out of the race. This is going to be a big point towards Sebastian Ray, still trying to hold it side by side, coming towards the second hairpin, and this is going to be a very important battle for Ray if he can hold it off, because he just lost the place to Balash Noj, which he doesn't want to continue losing for sure. But he's made his way through there himself and away from that battle, but a little bit deep there, but maybe just Noj actually breaking a little bit earlier, because it seems Ray's got a good exit. Will now get the slipstream.
That was very scary, but Ray managed to get it pulled up just up in time, but I thought he was going straight into the side of him for a moment there. Dinez has lost a few tenths of a second here, and Sandstrom very aware of that. Might want to go through. The gap grows to 6 tenths of a second now between 1 and 2. Popov in a pretty dreamy situation right now. Dinez, virtual championship leader, on the road right now if things were to end as they are, but I have a feeling that they won't. 9 tenths of a second, the gap just begins to increase, and I do wonder, with all the bumping and banging we've seen so far, and I was expecting there to be some, but maybe not this much. Got to wonder, at a circuit like this where straight line speed is so important, you've got to preserve your car and make sure you don't get damage on these high banks.
Absolutely, don't want to get any sort of aero damage that could cause you to slow down. But here is Sebastian Ray getting that slipstream. You really see how when you get to these higher top speeds, it really seems to come in. And as we get towards turn 1, is Ray going to just slide it down the inside? No, he's going to open up this turn 1, get a nice wider run, and then we'll try and get a bit of an acceleration out towards the horseshoe. But obviously all these drivers just getting so close now, and it looks like it is mainly a 5-way battle now, with the slipstream bringing everyone together at the front, as Dinez also losing a bit of time battling Sandstrom.
Yeah, Dinez looks a little bit vulnerable at the moment. I've got to say, he's got the Fastest lap on the last lap that he did. That's probably the first clear lap he's had, really. But 1.1 seconds to Popov now. Sandstrom is very much on the defensive. Noj and Rear have been able to catch up. Pasemko is not too far away either. And if they get drawn into a fight for second, and they're going to allow Popov to get up the road and possibly get himself back into this championship fight. He was only 21 points off the lead in 6th place at the start of this race. And yeah, he's going to overtake Foster as things stand right now, and Farkas as well, of course, and get a bit closer to the others. So he's not out of it at all, but we can't talk about it like this is race one for him just yet at all. Sandstrom very much comes under pressure now from Noj, who's in that 4th place, and he's going to do the sensible thing, or what I would call sensible thing, of just trying to push the car in front along. He gives up on that and goes to the outside, going towards the bus stop. You don't see this very often, and there's good reason for that. It doesn't often work, and on that occasion, Noj is going to have to tuck into line, and maybe he'll be under attack now from Sebastian Ritt.
Yeah, mainly what you do with a move like that is try and slow down the car ahead of you and get them having a worse exit coming out now from NASCAR 3 and 4, and that is a way for you to get a bit of a run. But it's actually going to be Sebastian Ray here getting a double slipstream behind Noj. Sandstrom pulling these two along as well. And can we see Sebastian Ray maybe get a position here or two as they start bump drafting as they come through the tri-oval? Are they going to be trying any sort of dives down the inside? Sebastian Ray once again going to the outside, but is actually up ahead. Noj trying to make a bit of a move under the brakes, but not enough to do anything just yet. Then slowing each other down just a little bit, and as it stands, they stay in formation, but certainly getting pretty close and pretty tasty between these guys.
Certainly is. Sandstrom once again on the defensive towards the international horseshoe. As Noj tries to go around the outside, he's not able to. I get the feeling that these guys are just organising themselves a little bit to calm things after the opening 10 minutes or so that we are nearing in this half-hour race. The Pasemko just a second and a half maybe behind as well with Andre Foster. We did see a pass into turn 1 that lap as well as Orban got his way through on Ezekiel Terminando as well in that 9th place, as that was very wide from Sandstrom, and one of the easier passes that Noj is ever going to have to make at the West Horseshoe there.
Indeed, and these guys just changing positions a little bit more easily in some places than I would have thought. So that means you really just want to overtake when you can, otherwise the guys behind are going to be coming through as well, and these battles are very, very close indeed. At the front, Popov hasn't managed to pull away even more. It certainly has been closing down that slipstream, just pulling them back into play. But here's Noj coming towards the bus stop chicane, just defending ever so slightly, half a car width there to the inside, just to make sure no one's doing anything too silly. But it's always the exit out of that corner that you want to get.
Side by side in the background as Andre Foster gets through on Mike Pasenko just in behind. It was side by side into the bus stop, which is always scary. But the Swede came out on top in that particular instant, as Sebastian Rear is going to once again try and encourage the car in front to get a bit of a move on. It's Philip Sandstrom on the receiving end of this on this occasion. They all close into Popov, who's had a quiet couple of laps here. We hit 20 minutes to go in this race. Outside line for Sebastian Rear into turn 1 and 2. It's a long way around there when you start at that distance. He's not going to be able to outbrake from that point. Even goes wide and loses a bit of time. Popov went a bit wide there as well. And now Dennis is going to start to apply the pressure. We saw this at Hockenheim though. The first 10 minutes have passed now, and they were quite chaotic. It very much seems like the drivers have calmed down and realised that this is a race, and so they need to get their head down a little bit. And then maybe they'll wait for a little bit later on where all hell's going to break loose once again.
Yes, this battle is certainly getting closer and closer now. It's a 5-way battle as everyone's diving towards the inside. Noj there just trying to get in the mirrors of Denez in second place, and they're just trying to work out how they're going to get themselves towards the front of this battle. But they've got to make sure not to battle too much, because they do have Foster and Pasemko just behind them. Only a couple of seconds, but that will easily be caught up in the last couple of thirds of this race if they start batting. So they need to now just work out who are their friends, who are they going to use for slipstream, or are they just going to go for a bit of a free-for-all now that they've caught it back up to the leader? There's no worrying about sort of splintering and losing pace.
Well, that is true as well. We could see madness for the next 20 minutes. Speaking of leaders, by the way, Popov, we were talking about just losing a bit of his lead as we look back from him right now, and Denez starting to apply the pressure to him. Previous race leader, of course, Farkas had a game crash, by the way, towards turn 1. So it wasn't, he didn't get completely wiped off the face of the earth by whoever hit him in the side. I think it was possibly Dines. But there was a game crash. His game froze, and so unfortunately that is the end of the day for him, and you'd argue possibly his championship challenge as well. He'll mathematically be in contention, but it's not going to look likely, as we do have that side-by-side for the lead now. Dines wants to retake it, and we're going to see free wide. Down towards below the double yellow line there for Bowser's Nos. That surely won't be allowed. He's got to the inside anyway. Into turn number 1 he goes. There's more contact. He's off into the grass, and Dines goes off as well in a very big way. Bowser's Nos retakes the lead. Previous leader Popov goes down to 4th. That was all very messy, very aggressive, and Nos effectively managed that by going below the yellow lines.
Yeah, that was not necessarily the way we wanted to see this lead battle go. Losing another one out of this top 5 fight, and that is going to be very difficult for Dines to come back from that one now, down in that 9th place. Nos making it 3 wide, going to the inside, but I do wonder in that braking zone, was he trying to give that place back maybe? Because he was going so much slower, and that caused a bit of confusion now as Popov slides back up the inside there of the Western Horseshoe, and that is going to be a place back as Sandstrom now drops down to 4th. But yeah, I do wonder, there just looked to be some miscommunication in the body language between those drivers. Yeah, that is the way it goes, though, sometimes in racing. We saw that, who was it in that first race? McConan, wasn't it? Unfortunately, having the issue coming into the hairpin there at Hockenheimring. He was at the front, and just other things like that can happen in racing. The races don't always go your way, even when you're in a good position. And now, let's see if Balash Noj can hold on to this one. Sebastian Ray now in that 2nd place, getting the slipstream towards turn number 1. Not quite close enough, though. I do wonder if he's just lifting off a little bit. But maybe there is a slight difference in, of course, the top speeds and the acceleration in these cars. There is a BOP for all of the range of cars, the massive range of WTCR cars we have on RaceRoom as well. And maybe that Alfa Romeo could be struggling a little bit. We'll have to see that as the race goes on.
Yeah, fantastic selection. As you mentioned, 3 different of those selections in the top 3 right now. Two of them making contact there. Popov in the Alfa Romeo making his way around the outside of the Honda of Sebastian Rea. I don't know how that came about, really, because the Rea seemed to be all right through turn 1, but clearly not much further on than that. Just in behind, Andrei Fosto and Make Pasemko have been gaining positions left, right and centre from other people going off. Now they're fighting over 5th place. Fosto have just come out on top on that occasion into the top 5, so that's all good news for him as the top 4 continue to get away. This is almost like what we saw 15 minutes ago at the very start of this race, with the top 4 getting away, only that 2 of them are completely different drivers now, so make what you will of that. Popov is going to be very eager to get back to the front of this group, a position that he will believe, of course, is rightfully his after the incidents down in turn number 1 and 2 a couple of laps ago. But the real interesting thing is the fact that Noj and Rea came into today tied on points. It's basically whoever finishes higher out the 2 of them who will take the initiative into the final round.
Yeah, it's getting, or has been pretty close between those drivers over the course of the first 2 races, as we were saying, but it all needs to be worked out. And in just a 4-race calendar, it is certainly very difficult to come from a big points deficit, as we're going to see Farkash having to do so in that final race. But Popov making his way towards the front, getting that slipstream now on Noj, is within 1.5 tenths of a second. The Alfa Romeo now starting to come back there at the Hyundai as he goes to the outside of the tri-oval. There's a longer way round, of course, but you do get a bit of a banking, maybe a bit of a slingshot to dive down the inside there towards turn number 1, but not doing that this time around. But no, it does look like actually Noj just breaks a little bit early for that corner, as we saw a couple of laps ago, causing the issue. But around the outside for Popov, can that work? He's going to get just squeezed out as he tried to go around the outside at the corner they're coming up to now on the previous lap. So he certainly likes to try things, but it's just staying in that 2nd place at this moment. All the steep though. Very wide
from Noj there, and Popov is not going to let that one slide. Neither is Rea. And Popov going to give Noj a bit of a taste of his own medicine there, squeezing him out on the exit of the International Horseshoe, side by side now with Rea as well. He did didn't really want to be on the outside through there, and who can blame him, as we got a big dive from the Hungarian. Down he goes. Popov going to really hang it out around the outside, and he does hold on to first place. But what a fight we are seeing between these four. 13 minutes to go in this race. There's more contact. Popov's going to be shoved out wide. If he's not careful, he's going to end up high throughout the entire of the banking there. Fortunately, he was able to get down quickly enough to avoid that from happening. But he's back in the lead. Makes you wonder just how long this lead is going to last on this occasion.
Yeah, Popov's been racing so well, managing to get back to the front there, but just look at I do wonder if that Alfa is slightly slow in the straight line, because we saw this before. When Popov was leading, he just couldn't hold on with that slipstream nudge to the inside. Who's going to be later on the brakes in turn 6? It was Popov braking early, but this time he brakes the latest and gets back to that lead. But these top four still in this massive fight, this massive train, and they haven't let Fosto catch up. In fact, if anything, they've started to pull away, which is pretty good for these guys. But now, once again, the slipstream around NASCAR 4. Who is going to make the best decisions and come out on top when we get to the start-finish line?
Humphrey very close indeed. Sandstrom once again showing himself to be the most level-headed of the four, as through the middle goes Norge to the lead. The Alfa Romeo may be suffering a bit now, as around the outside goes Sebastian Rear up on the high side. We'll see if he can get through into turn 1 and 2. It's a very similar situation for Norge, who was in this exact place 1 lap ago, only this time it's Sebastian Rear on his outside line instead of Popov. Side by side out the first couple of corners they go, and through the S section, still side by side, inside line for Norge. Popov going to push him a little bit, try and follow through maybe, and Norge gets pushed out wide. He'll go down to third place, with Popov following Rear through into second, so they sort themselves out. Once again though, I really fancy Philip Sandstrom for a win here. He's very, very much staying out of this, not getting roped into the fighting going on in front of him.
I tell you what, you do not want to be leading when we get to that final lap. You want to be in that second place, getting the slipstream, getting the run towards that start-finish line. But there's still 11 minutes to sort out your position to be in coming onto that final lap. But for sure, this is an intense battle. The slipstream seems to be quite impressive, as we were expecting, with 2 kilometers of a straight line, just pulling you in, especially if you're second or third in this pack. You start getting a double slipstream, and it really starts to work, as we're seeing now out onto this back straight. Ray there in that Honda, getting the Alfa Romeo Popov, getting that slipstream all the way behind him, looking towards the inside of the bus stop chicane. But of course, Nosh there in the background as well, trying to get a position to get that run, get that slingshot out of the bus stop and onto the start-finish straight.
Absolutely. What kind of run do they have out the bus stop chicane? It's a very good one from Norge, but possibly too good. Popov has given himself a little bit of room to just slipstream into there, and he might have a chance at going down towards turn number 1. Here they go. Rick, there's not a lot that Rick can do here. It's a bit of a test run really as well for the run to the start finish line. Does the leader have any chance of holding off here? And I think the answer is going to be a resounding no in a moment. Although it has done that time. Popov tried to duck out wide and then come back in. Notch was already there, and the two of them go off the road as the four of them stay in single file through these opening couple of corners. They'll stay exactly where they are. This is, once again, high contact racing, but it is touring car racing at its very best. Less than 10 minutes to go, and this could go any which way of 4 ways, maybe more.
Oh, they're down the inside. Nudge trying to push Popov out of the way. Bit of bumping, bit of barging between the two, but he manages to slide his way back up into that second place. These guys starting to get their elbows out of those corners. They have been the whole race, but they're starting to get that even more sort of competitiveness as we're getting towards these final 10 minutes now of the race. Bit more contact as Popov round the outside there in the West Horseshoe, and that is a good move to come back. Popov loves the outside of some of these braking zones. That Alfa Romeo really working in these corners, as we saw him already get up to that front grid on the grid. But of course, he had the slipstream to get him there, and maybe that is what is lacking. But Sebastian Ray now is putting in away there. Nosh is losing a bit of ground in that middle sector.
Yeah, I certainly think that the Alfa Romeo very strong on the brakes, very strong in the corners, but not so good around the banking. It seems to be struggling to really benefit from the slipstream, although, as I say, that might be able to get down the inside. You can see as soon as he ducks out the slipstream, though, loses a bit of time. Might have just lifted off to get back into line in time for the corners there, but even so, it's a difficult place to for Popov to be in when so much of this circuit takes place absolutely flat out. You have a bit of distance between them now, the four of them. A few car lengths in there. Although Popov is looking very close indeed, very threatening as well, on the back of the German who's leading this race. 5 laps to go when we get to the line. This race is not really anywhere near being over. Popov knows that as well as he looks to the outside line through the tri-oval. It's a long way round, but it doesn't matter too much around this tri-oval as they go over the line. He's not going to go for it here by the looks of things. He's going to look to the outside instead. He knows the inside's going to be covered. He tries to use the braking of the Alfa Romeo. He's gone too far. He's gone way too late on the brakes. He goes for first, but he drops to 4th.
He certainly does, and that is the risk that you take, is he's now going to have to try and come back past these drivers once again. Sandstrom's been gifted a place back on that podium, but he hasn't really, as you say, got involved with this fight. He's just sitting there trying to wait, probably for that final lap, to get a run, and that will be a nice position for him. But Popov is he's certainly pushing those brakes in that car to make up some time, make up some positions, but he needs to be careful not to overdo it like that and then lose out on another position. But yeah, certainly these drivers trying to work out where they need to be, I think, coming onto that final lap, and just trying to work out what track position they need to be.
It's very wide again from Sebastian Rear on that corner before the banking, turn 6 officially, and it's a very important corner. Doesn't seem to be suffering for it very much either, though, as he continues to lead, just under 3 tenths now, with Nodge right in behind. As we mentioned earlier, Rear and Nodge came into today tied on points, and with Farkas out the race and Dennis down in 7th, these two look like they're going to take the championship challenge right to the end between the two of them, ready for an exciting finale at Interlagos in 3 weeks' time. But out of the bus chicane they go. It's a nice run for Nodge, and now he's going to start to pick up the benefit of the slipstream as well now. Just got reeling that Honda in just up in front, and when he gets there he's going to have so much extra speed. We'll see if he decides to use it or stays in prime position here in 2nd place. The Hyundai just pulls out early, side by side through the tri-oval. It's going to be a race to the line that Rear would have won had it been the last lap. So interesting to note there for Nodge. He does ideally need to be out in the lead. Or has Rear found his position to be in? Is this Honda just too difficult to get past in a straight line? Not sure.
It might just be, but I do think Nodge would have stayed in the slipstream a little bit longer and tried to do something there. I do think at this moment in time he is just trying to sit there, as of course you've got to worry about everything in this race, including things like the incident limits, and with all the contacts and everything that's been happening, I wonder if some of these drivers will be getting a bit close to that, because we have seen some pretty elbows out racing, and some drivers trying to go for places that they can't do. But Ray, they're just a little bit slower into that horseshoe, and that is going to be the best for the exit as the drivers behind start to close in. They do have some bag markers though coming up, and this could be a big factor with the slipstream and how this works out.
Absolutely, as Dennis and Chiminando go side by side now into turn 6. That's contact. Dennis on the outside line. Well, he's just turned in there. Chiminando's gone over the corner, and he's kept the place, but he didn't really have much choice, I've got to be honest. So that battle continues to be very, very physical indeed. By the way, it's the limit 40. It's 40 for this race here today. Nodge reportedly only one incident away from being disqualified in this race, quite possibly, and so that's going to be very difficult. When we've seen the battling we've seen so far, and what it takes to get through on one of these drivers, you get the feeling that only having one incident point left is not going to be enough.
Yes, probably not with the amount of content that we've seen, but something's happened on this lap, because Popov has dropped back. Sandstrom is massively back. He's 5 seconds, but to the front of the field. Nodge now, he's got a better run than the previous lap. He's going to go to the outside, coming towards the tri-oval. Can he get his car ahead before we get to the line? He might just be able to if that was the last lap, but we're still going to have about 3 laps to go in this race. Can Nodge hold it all the way around the outside? Not quite close enough. Ray holds on to that lead, but it's turned into a two-way battle at the front. Sandstrom has dropped back to 5th place. Foster has got up into 4th. A lot of things happened on that last lap off camera.
Absolutely. Not entirely sure. I reckon it was a single car mistake from Philip Sandstrom, actually. I reckon he just made a mistake somewhere. I don't know where that would be, to be honest, but I reckon he did. Popov's just able to go through without problem, and they've left these two leaders to it, really, as Dennis is continuing to struggle to get the overtakes done back in the pack there. The pack for what is now 6th place, really, more than anything. It was for 5th earlier, or 6th, but now very much for lower positions, and Dines is just scrapping for any points he can manage. Only 9th place is only 26 points, which is just over half of the points you get for winning the race at 50. So that is not good news for Dines, who's going to get dived by Fernando, and these two have just been at each other's throats for the last 2 minutes, really, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. That was definitely an unrealistic move there by Fernando, and these guys have been pushing and barging each other out of the way for the last couple of laps that we've been following them. Dines was up a little bit higher. He was battling Orban at one point, but unfortunately he has dropped off, and maybe this is the reason for that. Flashing his way towards the front. These guys need to put a lid on it with this battle, because they still need to get to the end of the race and not having any more incidents and contacts. But we do worry when we see drivers like that diving it down the inside in an unrealistic way.
Absolutely. Don't want to see that at all, as the gap for the race lead is very small. Notch on the outside, half a tenth between them. Is he having a dry run here for the final lap, or does he have to overtake? It's 200ths of a second, but Sebastian Rear has got the pace on the low line to see this one out. If things stay as they are, Notch gets very close to the rear of the Honda just behind. I wonder what his game plan is for the rest of this race here now, because it's very clear to me that Hyundai is not strong enough. It's not quick enough in a straight line to go through on the straight. He can't wait for the drag to the line. He's got to do it somewhere else. But where else? And even if he does get through, will the Honda just get back through on the last straight anyway?
Absolutely, you got to choose. Do you want to be first or second? I think still being second has probably the better opportunity from what we've seen so far. And although having said that, the fact that it's turned into a two-way battle, that does affect the way the slipstream works. He's not going to be pushed, but Popov is coming to try and get back in this battle. And we're going to get a semi run to the line this time around as well, as I do believe we're going to be getting one more lap after this one. And that is going to be the all-important one, the final lap, of course. But you're right, you need to work out where you're going to be and how you are going to attack it. That was a bit of a bad exit though, as we're seeing Nosh here trying to get a run, but he's just potentially lost about a car length or so there through that middle sector.
Let's see. It will be the penultimate lap, so there's one more to come after this. Sebastian Rear is going to be looking in his mirrors more than he's looking forwards. Norton there pulls out from the slipstream, but he's not able to get anywhere near Sebastian Rear going towards the final bus stop chicane. This, of course, so important for the course of this championship. It is between these two now. The two of them tied on points coming into today. The gap between first and second in the point system is a big 6 points. It's going to be difficult to overcome for either of these two drivers at the finale at Interlagos if they come out second after this one. Through the banking for the penultimate time, Nodge pulls out once again. Sebastian Rear protects the inside line. And half a tenth once again, it's not enough. The Hyundai falls back. The Honda's so strong in a straight line. What's Popov going to do here in the Alfa Romeo as Norris looks to the inside line at turn 1 and 2? There's no way through there. Mere seconds remain. Sebastian Rear makes a mistake. Here comes Norris. The two of them lean on each other through the S's. No room through there. Outside line into the International Horseshoe, there's no room there, and Popov is right into this one as well, as Norris is trying everything he can, but it's very clear he's being very careful here now.
Yeah, Popov is right in this battle, and he needs to try and get on the back of this, because he has a potential run towards the line. If he can get that double slipstream as well, that is certainly a little bit higher, a little bit more top speed, and this is really the place now. Don't make a mistake now. Don't let yourself get out of that slipstream. Be right on the back of Sebastian Rear. You might just have yourself a chance at a race victory today here at Daytona. But is Popov going to look to be in second place? Is he going to look to be in that third place as they come out? All sorts of different lines coming through turn 6 onto the banking for the final time. This is going to be a massive run, but who's going to come out on top?
That was a fantastic turn 6 from Bowser's Notch. It may have looked a bit strange, but it was very quick, and now you can see the run that he's got. This is towards the bus stop. Does he want to do it here? Well, he's going to try and have to do it wherever he can. Sebastian Rear is not going to give him much room to breathe. He's going to squeeze him right next to the wall. But Notch is not going to let him back into the racing line in time. And so he's got a compromised line. This is the best chance that Bowser's Notch has had all race long. And it comes at the very final lap of this one. Popov not too far away in the Alfa Romeo either. Sebastian Rear's done a very good job through the bus stop there to really get through there. Despite the compromised line, he's got a nice run, but is it enough? As Bowser's Norris is going to get closer with the slipstream. They're going to pull out. They're going to go too wide. Popov might try and make it free. Or is he going to try and push Norris to glory here? He's going to go for it himself. Outside line, free wide. Rear going to slow down on the inside line. He goes below the apron and he will take it. 0.02 of a second at the line. Bowser's Norris wasn't quite able to get there. He threw everything at it. He had his best opportunity on the very last lap. The most dramatic of endings, but Sebastian Rear has taken the win here at Daytona, and what an important win that might turn out to be.
It might be those 6 points as they're still batting coming towards the line. Oh, massive contact through the try over there of the two Hyundais, and Orbital going into the wall, and that is not the way he would have been wanting to finish this race. And that really just sums up what we've seen today. Fast and frantic racing, and the drivers just going to the absolute limit because they know every thousandth of a second in these slipstream type races is so important. And as you say, Sebastian Ray getting that extra 6 points on Balashonage could be the all-important factor when we get to Interlagos in a couple of weeks. They came into this race tied on points now for second place, but they will be Ray now leading by 6.
Absolutely, he takes the win over Bowser's Norris there, and Octavian Popov, a nice podium from him. Andrei Fosto inside the top 4 again, 4th place for him on this occasion. Sandstrom's late mistake drops into 5th. Orban 6th place there ahead of Mek Pasemko. Danes will be very disappointed, finishing 8th ahead of Ezekiel Germinando. Melvin Atkinson rounds out the top 10 from that race, and what a race it was indeed as well. We had Timo Pippa Ismail Russell in 11th ahead of Pippa. Then it was Bowser's Polgar in that 13th position as well, with Pro Shifter there, Orbital there as well, with Oliver Rast, Frank Van Roon, Dominic Burkhardt, all there as well. You can see the rest. Most of these guys having a bit of a disaster, really, in some form or another. You can see a couple of the retirements there as well. Farkas being the biggest of them after a few laps in this race. Big dramatic crash going down towards turn number 1, ending any hope he had of winning this championship. You'd have to say, Cam, that after that one, after all of the drama, the drivers would be very glad to leave Daytona. First of all, that was a very intense race, but also we are down to a 2-horse race.
We certainly are, and I think Interlagos is going to be very similar with the style of slipstream that you have around there, with a massive run up towards the start finish line in turn 1, then of course the run down towards turn 4 as well, and we're going to see some just crazy action. But it was the top 4 in the standings coming into this race. They were within the top 5 on the grid as well. So there's definitely a sort of class of the field towards the front. As we saw with Fosto getting back up into 4th place this race, the winner last time out as well. So there's definitely a few drivers there that's going to be at the top. So it's going to be so close in that battle. And to be honest, I just can't wait to see what they're going to do. It's been certainly a crazy race here at Daytona. And I think that's just a good way to set it up for the final race of the season.
It absolutely is. We've got the GT3s coming up a little bit later on here as well. That's going to be an hour race, Cam. And I feel like, well, it may be a little bit different, of course, because the touring cars do stay close together really on normal circuits. This one has just been kind of heightened compared to normal. But the GT3s won't exactly be a bad race either.
No, they're certainly not. The GT3 is obviously with a longer race as well. They've got a pit stop that has got to be coming into that as well. So this is going to be an amazing event coming up. But of course, don't forget, there is a 3rd tier to this RaceRoom Ranked Championship, which is the F4s as well in the Rookie Cup. And they raced yesterday. So let's go and have a look at the highlights to see who came out on top in that one.
Highlights then for the Rookie Cup for the World Centre of Racing. Round number 3, the Daytona International Speedway. Philip Craven would have a better start on the front row of the grid and would beat out poleman Bo Dixon down into the first corner. Renzo Filipao hanging on to 3rd. Sven Mackenberg, however, moving up into 4th position. The battle for 5th position will see Renault going around the outside of Hendricks, all the way around the outside of the International Horseshoe, giving the inside line through the dogleg and up towards the West Horseshoe. A super move from Renault. Meanwhile, Hendricks having to fight off Borzok behind. There was a little bit of contact between Gerhard on the right-hand side in the black and gold car, and then Schubeck in the yellow and black. A little bit of contact going through the bus stop, and it was Schubeck that would come out on top. Meanwhile, Sousa had to wait behind. Villacrevi, our race leader, though, would make a mistake into the first corner, allowing Bo Dixon to retake over the race lead. And then these big battle packs behind, Grillo being pushed through the middle by Guides and nearly got alongside Schubeck as well, sending it all the way around the outside of the back end of the top 10. Meanwhile, Grillo would go wide, drop a few positions, but right back into the middle of this almighty train. Villacrevi was under pressure from Enzo Filipao, who was not enjoying hanging on to third position. He wanted that second, and he wanted to get after Bo Dixon for a race lead, especially as Villacrevi was making a couple of mistakes, hanging out the rear end just a touch coming through the West Horseshoe. Filipao had to wait for now. Sven Mackenberg coming back onto the scene. Then Enzo Filipao onto the oval would decide to sit behind Villacrevi, try and push him up to the rear end of Bo Dixon and focus on a race victory. Meanwhile, on board with Hendricks, who nearly got into the rear end of Balzok, coming through the fast chicane at the bus stop. He'd skip over, only amazingly losing the one position to Renault, managing to fight off Marvin Mackenberg as they head round NASCAR 3 and 4 and back onto the start-finish straight. Villacrevi was down the inside of Enzo Filipao trying to defend as they'd caught back up to Bo Dixon, but Enzo Filipao read that one brilliantly. The up and under and second position went the way of Filipao. Meanwhile, Renault was trying to attack Balzok, who'd gone out wide into the West Horseshoe, dragged out Renault with him, and then sliding out in front of the likes of Sousa and Guides. A very big shame for some of those in the mid-pack that were looking for a decent top 10 finish. Schieferdecker would make a mistake coming through the bus stop whilst trying to get past the returning Guides, and unfortunately skip over the chicane, losing a few positions. Meanwhile, Marvin Mackenberg was trying to hang on to 5th spot. Schubeck was the one trying to wrestle that one off of him. And coming down to the International Horseshoe, it was a move all the way around the outside for the black and yellow of Schubeck to take over 5th position. Marvin Mackenberg dropped down to 6th, and also Balzok was trying to get involved in the fight also. Back to the battle, though, up with our race leaders as Enzo Filipao was trying to steal it away from Bo Dixon. The inside of the International Horseshoe was the route that he chose, on board with Villacrevi, looking for any sort of mistake. But Enzo Filipao into the West Horseshoe would take over the race lead. Bo Dixon dropping back a spot. Mackenberg would lose out to Balzok coming into the first corner, but then Balzok went for another move the next lap with this outrageous send down the inside, trying to remove Schubeck from 5th position and take it for himself, and would certainly do so on this occasion. Up the order, though, Enzo Filipao was under a lot of pressure, and he cracked under it. Bo Dixon was applying it. Enzo Filipao out wide. He dropped back to 2nd position, but would still hang on to 2nd over Villacrevi. Meanwhile, back to this fight as Mackenberg was having to fend off Gerhardt. Also watching the battle ahead, he would lose out to Gerhardt, dropping back to 8th position, but still up front there was some big battles. Gerhardt with a big send down the inside of Balzok, maybe a little bit too hard down the inside of Balzok, and it wouldn't quite work out on that occasion, but they'd make contact into the next corner also with a little bit of a brush, and that was Marvin Mackenberg's opportunity to take over the 7th spot as Balzok got pushed out wide. Enzo Filipao, though, was trying to take over the race lead. This time he would do so with a superior run out onto the NASCAR oval. He would take over the race lead, and Villacrevi was left waiting, wondering when his opportunity would arise, and almost immediately he would have one to take over 2nd from Bo Dixon, who'd be out wide. And suddenly this would become a battle for the race lead, though, because Enzo Filipao out wide going into the International Horseshoe. There were 3 wide off of it. Enzo Filipao getting squeezed off just a touch, and Villacrevi taking over the race lead. Couple of light mistakes, though, and Cravey was again feeling the pressure. Onto the last lap of the race, and Bo Dixon looking for 3 consecutive victories in the Rookie Cup. We'd get to the outside of the West Horseshoe, and that would just about give him the race lead. But Villacrevi wasn't going to roll over, wasn't going to wait. He was desperate to take this victory. He'd be on the outside going on to NASCAR 1 and 2. He'd get a little bit of assistance from Enzo Filipao, who would take over 2nd position. And going down to the bus stop, it was Villacrevi taking over the race lead with just a couple of corners left to go. It would be a drag race to the line, that when they got to it, it was Villacrevi who was going to come out on top from Filipao and from Dixon.
And welcome back to the 3rd round of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship for 2022. Just seeing those F4 highlights, another amazing race as well. You can just see the slipstream around here is just absolutely crazy. And of course, just following on from that wonderful finish with Sebastian Ray taking it out in the WTCR Trophy as well. So we'll say goodbye to Ewan O'Leary, and we'll bring in Lewis McGlade for this GT3 Pro Series. And Lewis, I'm just expecting this slipstream fest, this chaos to continue, but hopefully also a good race as well.
Yeah, it should be less prevalent in a race like this. Of course, high downforce cars in the form of the GT3 Pro Series. The F4s, we were expecting to keep it a nice one big train. That's what it was towards the line. Same with the WTCR Trophy. This one might be a bit different. It does open the idea for maybe a breakaway of a certain description. But remember, Max Pfeiffer coming into this, your championship leader. And he's won both of the previous races. He's going to be feeling very, very strong heading into this, the penultimate race of the season. Obviously, it feels so crazy to say that after just 2 races complete into the third. But I mean, every track we seem to go to just delivers on all of the action, all of the series. I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, certainly is great, and coming into the second season as well, it's been a great year of racing here with the Ranked Championship. So it's good to see that's continuing as well. So I'm just really happy to see that it's forming into a great championship, and hopefully this can continue as well into the future, because it seems to be just some great racing, top level driving, and of course going to some of the best tracks as well here at Daytona, then Interlagos to finish in 3 weeks' time as well.
Yeah, like I say, it's a couple of different circuits on there when you really think about it. Obviously, started the season at the Hockenheim Ring last round. Unfortunately, we didn't get to broadcast it through various issues, either the pro race or, of course, the AM category, the WTCRs. Thankfully, all of the highlights are on the RaceRoom YouTube, where you can check them out as to what actually happened last time out of the Red Bull Ring. In the GT3 category, like I said before, it was won by Max Pfeiffer. Luciano Wittfurt came over the line in second position, with Axel Vermeulen coming across in second. A couple of drivers in there, though, to really focus on that maybe weren't up there towards the end of the race. Drivers like Cody Nikola Latkovsky, who was looking really, really strong, really in that race, should have been second, but got a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane, because of course that's one thing to remind you about the GT3 Pro Race. It will be an hour long, and there will be a pit stop in the middle, and it is absolutely crucial to get that one spot on, isn't it?
Indeed, it's a big choice as well, really, in an hour race of these sorts of strategic games that you can play. But it's certainly one that you've got to get right. You've got to pit at the right time. Get yourself maybe into some clean air to start doing some faster laps, or maybe just trying to avoid your rival getting a better strategy. That's something that you've got to stay on top of. And considering how things have gone with Pfeiffer winning those first 2 races, as you mentioned, I'm interested to see if he can bring that on for a third race, or if we're going to see, like we've seen in the previous 2 races of round 3, is the slipstream going to bring other drivers into play, and then maybe having a bit of a battle for that win?
Well, qualifying is underway. I was going to say underway, but that would certainly not be the correct English. And here we can see our championship leader in Max Pfeiffer. Now, interesting to note, anyone who did catch the highlights package will note that Max Pfeiffer, for the Red Bull Ring, switched out the Bentley over to a Callaway in a very... was it Callaway or was it Ferrari? It's freaking Ferrari. God, my memory's gone. It was a Red Bull livery, which is very appropriate for the Red Bull Ring. Switching back to the Bentley, which did him very well, of course, back in the Hockenheim Ring, but just interesting to switch it. They're not locked into any of the cars they picked. They can switch them out. Cody Nikola Latkovsky's moved over into the 650S. There's been a couple of changes for some of the drivers.
Yes, certainly has. So in Alex Mosin there back into McLaren that we've seen him in before. He was also in a Callaway Corvette there at the Red Bull Ring. So you're right, the drivers do need to choose what the best car is for the different circuits, and it is quite cool, because some championships do lock it in. They say, right, whatever you choose for the first round, you're locked into that. But it's cool that drivers have that opportunity, and of course we have the BOP coming into that. So I think it's certainly opening up to the drivers to choose what they want, and to try and get themselves in the best possible position for the championship. And of course this style of track is quite a bit different to what we've had already this season.
Yeah, I am curious, because looking at it, like, some people have very big changes of hearts. Like I said before, we've seen normally when you come into these kind of things, you'll figure out there is one car that's faster than all of them, and then everyone will end up being in it, which is why I'm normally against the idea of these seasons where you can have free choice. But take a look at what we've got here. You know, we've got 650S, we've got Bentleys, we've got Audi R8, we've got Mercs. Like, there's still plenty out there when it comes to variety. So clearly, it's all banter out there. We've got a few drivers have stuck with the same car all the way through. I think Victor Stremans and Florian Arend have both stuck with the R8s, for example. A couple of Zabdir stuck with a 720S. Of course, there's two McLarens with the 650 and the 720. There's a few different mindsets as to what will work as we can ride on board with our champs leader around NASCAR 1 and 2 and up towards the bus stop. A couple of drivers ahead, of course, warming tyres. It is an open session after all. Max Pfeiffer for Durr Esports is straight over the curbs on the left, right. Kind of not using as much as I would normally expect. Maybe feeling the Bentley might get unsettled by those curves, by the rumble strips that's over there.
Yeah, they're certainly very dramatic if you go over them at the wrong line. Sometimes keeping it smooth, though, as you say, is the best way, because then you just get that nice run to the line. And he doesn't really have any slipstream pulling him, as we saw some games happening in the WTCRs as well. So that's certainly something to think about in this qualifying session. Is can you gain yourselves those extra few tenths? And as it stands, Pfeiffer there goes to the top at a 47.2, so about 10 seconds quicker than the TCRs. But Latkovsky behind gets a run to the line, and with that slipstream manages to go to the front.
Yeah, I think slipstream's gonna be king in a session like this. You kind of want to pick it up. It's not going to be make or break when it comes to the race itself. I think in this scenario it's going to be getting pole position. You're going to need to get that slipstream, but I don't think you necessarily need to start from pole position to be victorious around here, because Rokas to be coming across the line had a really big struggle the previous round. I think there's issues even into turn one, while we can see Strederman as well in the final corner coming out towards it. And like you were saying in the previous race, well, if you've come out of the bus stop, there's not really much you can do there. It's the small differences, the minor thousandths, that might make a difference between you starting in, let's say, 8th position versus starting from 4th. And those are bigger deals.
Yeah, you got to get right down low in NASCAR 3 and 4, not be scrubbing up the track, especially on the exit as well. You really just gain those extra thousandths of a second, and when you're flat out, you're pretty much at the VMAX of the car as well. There's not much that you can do. So any little loss that you do from either turning the wheel too much or just bumping down there below the apron, we saw the carnage that can ensue with unsettling the car as well. That's something that can really matter. And as you see Rosen here, just staying absolutely pinned to that double yellow line, coming all the way to the start finish line. It's quite a long way round as well, and goes to second place.
Yeah, of course. Another one of those drivers switching out. I think it was in I can't remember what it was in the last round. But was certainly in a Mercedes at the Hockenheim. I think it was the first drive of the season to pick up a drive-through penalty for a jump start, if memory serves. You can also see there's a bit of damage on that car on the front right. It doesn't really affect him too much, but still there is certainly some visual damage. Could be a lot of things. So obviously, if it was damage that was affecting his speed, his car's balance, etc., he would have been into the pit lane straight away. So I think it's any biggie at the moment. Cody Nikola Latkovsky then for a 650S. It's a 650S front row. Latkovsky in the orange one. Rosen, of course, in the black, gold and white Fanatec podium car that we can see here coming through the West Horseshoe, and improving in the second sector as well. So tyres seem to be good, at least for a couple of laps when it comes to pushing laps.
Yeah, how will that work though? Oh, that's too wide though, potentially in turn 6. Massive wheel spin on the exit as well. That run is going to be lost, and already back to the pit lane, because if you lose that momentum there, it's 2 kilometers run all the way down the back straight. So that's just such a lot of time to lose. And on your Delta, you'll just be losing time after time after time. So that is why we see him abandoning that lap and try and go for another one, because maybe just has enough time, actually maybe not, unless he left straight away.
Yeah, Vigneron now on our screen. You're absolutely right. If you time it right, then essentially your final stints have already started, right? You've already started your out lap for your final time lap. If you're going out now for your final stint, that's it. Your session's done. You will not be able to continue that. As we look at Vigneron, the car directly behind, coincidentally, by the way, is Luciano Wittfurt. Some drivers that are done in this session before even really starting it. Amrad Dreyer. No time onto the board, not out on circuit at the moment, so that is his session done. Grunig also done with it. A couple of cars though that are yet to set a time that I'd really want to point out. Zabdir yet to set one. Axel Vermeulen yet to set one. Killian Hout also. Here is Zabdir up towards the line then, dropping a little bit in the first and second sector. What can the pole do? Drops below the double yellow to cross the line, goes to 4th, just scrubbing off as much speed as he possibly can. It will affect his second lap, and you can see he's already essentially pulling off of this one.
Yeah, he didn't have enough time for that lap, as I would mention all the time on RaceRoom. You have to get your laps completed by the time the session ends. It's not like other sessions maybe where you can when you can start your lap before it gets to 0, but no, here you have to finish your lap, and therefore with a 1 minute 47 you need to be starting your lap in the next 20 odd seconds, otherwise you're not going to be getting there. But here is how it's coming towards the line. One of those drivers that we're expecting to be up towards the top 10 side of things. Pfeiffer there, I should say, gets up into 7th place, whereas Hout only 21st. We were expecting a bit more from him, so he needs to try and improve on this final lap.
Yeah, it does have one more, so shouldn't be too major at the moment, but still it is certainly not ideal. Really, Felipe at the moment on a lap. Audi R8 at the moment going okay in the first sector, only a little bit okay really in the second, but as long as you've nailed the bus stop, could actually move up inside the top 10 realistically. Goes to 6th. There we go. That was definitely ours. That was a brilliant final sector from the Portuguese driver to get up into 6th. Couple of other sessions done. Chatso out of the session. Also Florian Arendt, we always tend to call him Fabian Arendt, sorry mate. But his session also done, back in the pit lane. Big shame.
Indeed, and that is just even in a long-ish qualifying session where you have time for multiple laps, you certainly need to be getting them in, and so far Vermeulen hasn't done that, but this is a pretty decent lap. Actually, this should be well up inside the top 10 as long as he didn't mess the bus stop up, which didn't actually look too bad. So now it's just pinned to the throttle all the way around NASCAR 3 and 4 to see where Vermeulen can do, but that should hopefully be up towards the top 5 even.
Yeah, this is going to be a big lap from Vermeulen at the moment. The driver that is second in the championship. His rival sat up there in 2nd place in the session behind Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Vermeulen comes up towards the line, then he crosses it and goes to 5th, 29th to 5th. A very important lap from the Belgian, as Yuval Rosen will be one of the final few to come across the line. Rokas to be moved up in the 15th spot. But it does seem as though pole position will be taken by Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Rosen can finish this lap time. There could be some improvement from him as he crosses the line, and he does indeed go to 3rd. So gets ahead of Mosen, gets ahead of, well, he's still ahead of Vermeulen, so fair enough on that one. But the top 2 in the championship, Pfeiffer and Vermeulen, 2nd and 5th. A big advantage potentially to our championship leader.
Yeah, this is set up, though, to be an awesome race. It's been so sort of close on the lap times as well, just a few tenths here and there. But it was Latkovsky who just got that big jump on all of the other drivers. But behind them, the next 4 drivers, all within a 10.5. So, yeah, it's going to be an awesome race. Hour of racing, a pit stop as well. So I'm really looking forward to this to see who's going to come out on top, because it's one of those where with the strategy, with the slipstream, we don't really know. We can't really predict.
Did get a word, by the way, by Team Lena. Of course, Lena, Crystal Productions, etc., has been running some of the strategy for Florabian Arendt, which is what I'm going to start calling now. Sorry, mate. Again, starting from the back intentionally. Now, whilst I got 30 seconds left on the gridding process, what could the strategy be behind that, even just for anyone that might be intentionally starting towards the back?
I don't know. That is
surely just avoiding the carnage.
Potentially just avoiding the carnage, and then maybe making an earlier pit stop, so that then they will drop even further back behind the field, and then having even more clean air. So that is probably the one thing I can think of. But for sure, look out for someone doing that early pit stop, getting themselves some clean air is going to be important.
Well, here we go then. The pro race about to get underway at the Daytona International Speedway, the world centre of racing. It's Cody Nikola Latkovsky starting from pole position. It's Pfeiffer alongside. It'll be a standing start as they head off the banking. Big bit of wheel spin there from Latkovsky. A bad start though from the championship leader. He's going to drop back potentially 4 positions before we've even got down to the first corner, as a sea of McLarens send their way through. Latkovsky, the Macedonian, will hang on to the race lead. Yuval Rosen up to 2nd then. Mosen, Vermeulen, Zabdir, Pfeiffer and Pfeiffer try and get that one out, battling it out over 6th.
They certainly are, and that was not the start that he would have wanted there in that Bentley, but certainly seems like coming down actually up the inside there, got another driver, one of the Audis I think, trying to get up the inside there of Pfeiffer. So that's certainly not the best start. Vitford getting up there as well, and this is certainly a huge amount of GT3s coming into the West Horseshoe. Hopefully no contact into this braking zone. It's very tricky, kinks into up the inside, but we are starting to see some drivers battle up the inside there. I think that's Brown getting in position.
Dust being picked up. Luciano Vitford dropping a position back behind Max Pfeiffer, who's just picked up another one. It's an all-Bentley fight. There's Pfeiffer straight down the inside though of Ian Pfeiffer. Again, I'm not mixing up the drivers, I'm not mispronouncing it. It is Pfeiffer versus Pfeiffer, and it is quite hard to say, but Max Pfeiffer back up a couple of positions into 6th, getting past the Mercedes there, and we'll try and pick up the slipstream of Zabdi. That had to be a very bold move as they head back out onto NASCAR 1 and 2. A bit of squeezing as well happening between Zabdir and Vermeulen, heading up towards the bus stop. Who's going to go to the outside? It's Zabdir at the moment who's going to send it round. Vermeulen though with the advantage being taken, and this is going to drag that big Bentley back into the fight.
It certainly is. That was potentially a bad start for Pfeiffer, but it seems like he's been able to get back on it, to overtake those couple of cars, as we see Vitford there in the background, getting all the way around the outside of Ian Pfeiffer. But in the foreground, this is a battle for the lead. Rosen leading the way, coming towards the line. Latkovsky trying to get that run, but looks like he's push drafting him as Alex Mosin gets a double slipstream up behind them, getting towards a three-way battle. Is in the background. Contact between these drivers.
That was Pfeiffer. I think that was Pfeiffer that was sent up into the barrier in that Bentley. I'm not 100% sure, but there could be damage on the right-hand side of Pfeiffer's Bentley. Might would have been sent up there. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Either way, Rosen hanging on to the race lead. Yellow flag comes out in the final sector as they race their way towards the line. I think it will be Nog. We can see heading back to the Vermeulen. You've got 2 Bentleys all over the rear end. One of them being Luciano Vitford, one of them being Pfeiffer, who's got back another position. And Rui Felipe also onto the scene. This could be bad for Pfeiffer if there is any damage on the car.
Absolutely, because you're just going to lose time after time around here, and that is not what we want to do. It's all one of the Audis there in the background, because Felipe having a bit of a late dive there, loses a place, but I think actually gets it back on the exit to Straightmans, which is not going to be so bad, but for sure these drivers pushing. Oh, in the background there's Ian Pfeiffer going around. There was definitely some contact, few drivers involved as they all try and avoid him, and Ian gets out of the way just about from the drivers coming in behind.
Yeah, I think it was Julian Vigneron that went into the side of him also as he was kind of coming back on was Ian Pfeiffer. But yeah, a bit of a sketchy moment as we can see here. Rui Felipe out and a little bit of himself, but Yuval Rosen getting under a lot of pressure for the race lead. No switch. I did think there was going to be a little bit there as Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Big moment though, big slide. Did you see that from Mosin? I think Mosin's gone. Mosin has dropped it coming out as we've got a bit of side by side here. Luciano Vitford, but they're going to gain a couple though, because Mosin having a massive slide ahead of all of them in the bus stop chicane. Luciano Vitford up to 4th position. Meanwhile, Vermeulen's being pushed by his championship rival.
He certainly is. We get a 3-way bump draft here coming out of NASCAR 4. They've got to be careful not to push each other into the walls. There's a lot of moving there between them as Vitford gets up into that 4th place. He's down about 8th or 9th at one point on that opening lap, but has managed to work out pretty well. It's all the way around the outside there. Goes your championship lead of Max Pfeiffer, and he seems to be able to make that move as Vermeulen there drops down, and these guys really starting to push for these positions as they need to do so as it comes into a Bentley side by side in towards the International Horseshoe, all the way around the outside potentially for Max Pfeiffer, but the batter at the front is also getting close, but it's actually in the end Vermeulen who gets that place back.
Yeah, indeed, like I said, really a tough battle. They're not playing a long game in this one. Zabdir's got plenty of clean air at the moment. Of course, 2.5 seconds up towards the race leader, but 2 seconds clear of this battle that we can see. Vermeulen still over the rear end of Luciano Vitford, but you've got Stredemans also closing in. Same with Chedron, same with Williams, Kramers, all in a big train. Did see Rui Felipe losing out a couple of positions, but he's straight into the slipstream of Steph Kramers at the moment. A much tighter line being taken by the 720S though of Vermeulen as they head back out onto NASCAR 1 and 2. Oh my goodness, well here we go. That is Hennig that's been sent around as well. Vutrick through the middle. I mean, that looked a bit calamitous as we rejoined it.
I wonder if that was a similar situation as we saw Ian Pfeiffer the previous lap. We've just been dived down the inside. Talking about diving down the inside, that could potentially be Vermeulen side by side with Vitford through the bus stop chicane. You don't often see this, and they managed to get back in single file, but that was a huge dive into a very short braking zone, and now it's going to be Max Pfeiffer trying to get the run once again, trying to get that double slipstream around NASCAR 3 and 4.
Yeah, three in a nice little tight train. I think Zabdir's. I think it was more of a connection. Don't worry, I was about to do like Zabdir's back up with the leaders, but certainly is not so. These 3 are now going to try and bump drive, and this looks very uncomfortable indeed. One tiny thing in the middle of 2 very large Bentleys. The 720 looks very much out of place when in this battle, but either way, Luciano Vitford's hanging on to 4th. No switches between the lot of them, but yeah, it was very sketchy indeed.
Yeah, that certainly is. And yeah, this is really a massive difference. The Bentley is one of the biggest cars on the grid, if not the biggest. And then you have the McLaren, which is one of the lowest cars on the grid. It's pretty crazy, the difference between the two, as you say. Viva holding on to that one for now, so Maiden is being pretty smart, trying to push along. But in the background, Straightman is holding on to this battle, so I don't know how effective this bomb drafting is, but that might have been down to the fact that the Maiden dived into the bus stop, which, as we were saying, isn't really an overtaking opportunity, at least if you could choose to do so. But these guys just knowing how important that track position can be.
Yeah, I think this is the whole thing. You've got to play the long game in events like this. Yeah, we know what the slipstream's like. We know what it's like around here. Look at the top two. Look at Cody Nicola-Latkovsky, who's behind Rosen. Potentially, Rosen's had an issue. I think Rosen might have disconnected. I think Rosen has had a problem. He has disconnected. So Cody Nicola-Latkovsky then, just as I was about to start speaking of him, Latkovsky was sat behind Rosen, waiting for his opportunity to overtake, trying to push himself clear of the entire field. Well, he didn't need to wait for that opportunity. It just came for him, and boom, yeah, there is the race lead. That is a massive shame for Yuval Rosen.
Yeah, Rosen was doing such a good job there, fighting towards the front, but it's Latkovsky was also towards the front, had it not been for that penalty at the Red Bull Ring as well. He didn't show up to round one, so what would he have been had he been there as well? We will never know. But back to this battle, Viva has managed to get away now into that third place, of course, being gifted that place by Rosen's DNF, but is managing to hold on. But who isn't holding on is Vermeulen, diving down the inside there is Pfeiffer, and he's managed to just about get it stuck, but a lot of little bumps and contact between the two as Viva was almost closing him off, always trying to put him in an awkward position. But your championship leader did manage to get up now into that fourth place as Viva starts to hold on for third.
It's super tight there. Is Pfeiffer straight down the inside of Luciano. There's contact as well as they leave the international horseshoe, and Vermeulen sat there rubbing his hands with glee. I know he's lost a position, but he's watching these two fight and think there might be a little bit more into the horizon, being squeezed out a little bit through the fast kick. There is a send straight back down the inside. Pfeiffer and Vittman make a little bit more contact. Vittman being pushed out wide, drops in behind your championship leader, who now moves up in the third spot as they head up towards NASCAR 1 and 2. But Luciano Wittfer is trying to not only attack but also defend a little bit as well, because he's got Vermeulen straight down the inside. It's going to be squeezed, and as they head back out onto NASCAR 1 and 2, that was a little bit naughty from Luciano Wittfer, got to be said.
Yeah, just squeezing that McLaren out of the way, coming through 6, and that is it's actually working out pretty well, because he's now getting this slipstream Bentley on Bentley towards the bus stop chicane as Pfeiffer tries to go that slightly defensive line, car width inside, just to make sure that they're not diving it down. But Vermeulen once again very late on the brakes into this bus stop, and Straightman's getting closer and closer in the background, turning into a four-way battle for this third place, as this battling has just meant they've dropped off the top two even more, over 5 seconds to the lead now. But it is Pfeiffer who's worked his way up into that third place, but how long will that last?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty intense fight, to be honest, but at least until the pit stop sequence. We'll have to see what happens with that. Will be in the middle portion of this race, the middle half of this race. Once we tick over 45 minutes to go, that is when the pit lane sequence opens, and who's going to bite early? Max Pfeiffer holding the defensive line from Luciano Wittfer from Max Vermeulen. Oh, but he's out a little bit too wide. We've seen that a few times already in the rookie Formula 4 and in the WTCR Trophy. Max Pfeiffer coming to that costly mistake as he's been pushed. He's entering that corner with so much more speed, and look at that from Vermeulen, straight down the inside of the international horseshoe. Instantly had the opportunity ahead of him, and boom, wants to slot himself back between those big Bentleys.
He certainly wasn't making that apex on his own, though. Needed a bit of help with the contact. Very, very late on the brakes there from the Belgian. But either way, that managed to work out. Up into fourth place now. This just shows you it doesn't matter if you're in third place. You can be then back into fifth in literally 2 corners time. And that is why the track position around here is quite important. But you also just have to know that these places are going to swap very frequently. But Pfeiffer's there struggling a little bit as he's got Straightman's now right behind him, but back towards 10th place. What Kramer's there, who's got Parvin right behind, but also this massive battle that goes all the way down to about 15th place or so, but even look more if you count all those drivers behind. It's pretty crazy in this midfield.
Which is exactly what we expect in these races. Almost the lower down you get, the crazier things get. Here is looking backwards from Craven. Kramer's rather, Parvin going for it. Sen might try and make it a little bit 3 wide. It's going to be a little bit dodgy up towards the bus stop. They're going to remain side by side ahead. Kramer's trying to make it stick. Kramer's does make it stick. Super move from the Porsche man up past Parvin with a super send all the way around the outside through the bus stop. Brilliant stuff from the Flying Dutchman, but you've got to worry about those behind. Sen, Hout, Rokas to be, Florian Arendt, by the way, got to say, what a start to have gone for the back of the grid. That's the damage control that we were saying about keeping out of trouble, as he would drag himself up into this fight by just staying out of trouble. There's Hout picking up 1, 2, 3 positions on the race down towards the first corner.
And this is almost 3 wide, coming towards the braking zones. Hout there is trying to just look at this battle ahead. Kramer's there losing that place potentially, but these guys, oh, there's a car around. What the hell? He says that Roof Felipe maybe. He's had a spin there, and one of the McLarens in the background has got caught up in that as well, dropping down. So all sorts of things. That's Alex Mosin potentially in that background, is up there. Pfeiffer towards the inside, just holding on as the maiden battles towards the Western Horseshoe. But Pfeiffer dives it down the inside and gets that place back.
That was a big moment. Go side by side through that kink. You are asking for trouble every time you do that. You are literally putting your hands, your entire race in the hands of someone else, hoping that they hit the apex, hoping that they don't mess it up, hoping that you don't mess it up and then mess their race up. I mean, it was a very dicey moment indeed. Pfeiffer hangs on to 4th position. They've allowed Luciano Bitford to pull away by around a second. And so it could be just a fight between these two. And if they're so focused on each other, they might lose sight of the bigger picture. It is a short championship after all, and who knows who could be involved in it going into the final round of the season in just a few weeks' time, as we ride on board with Vermeulen, sat right under the rear wing essentially of that Bentley, heading through the bus stop as we are a couple of laps away from that pit window opening now. Let's say, for example, you Straightmans, you Vermeulen, hey, maybe even Pfeiffer as well. You're losing time in all these battles. Do you pit right at the start of that pit window sequence and try and get out of all of this?
Potentially, because these are quite crazy battles. It just depends on exactly the pit stop time, actually, because we're already 40 seconds to Rue Felipe. There's been quite a lot of field spread, and you don't want to get yourselves involved with those back markers. Obviously go slower as Pfeiffer now comes towards turn 1. Vermeulen on the outside. This is, of course, your championship battle as well. Vermeulen second place coming into this, but there is a 16-point gap, so quite a lot. But Pfeiffer will want to stay ahead, of course, to keep that tally improving. Vermeulen once again diving down the inside. Bit more contact between the two. Vermeulen, though, goes around half spins, actually manages to save it. The Straightmans comes through, and Vermeulen drops back another place.
Yeah, he's also might come under pressure from Cheradon, rather, kind of soon if he's not careful, because let's be honest, if that car does join the battle, might well slow him down. We'll head back, go to this fight between Parvin and Kramers, because it's pretty much delivered every single second we've looked at it with that brilliant move going through the bus stop. Hout's cleared off by about a second over Parvin. Kramers, Send, Rokas to be also in here, as well as Florapi and Arendt. 14th spot at the moment, with a fairer gap back to Grillig. I think might be carrying a touch of damage from earlier on in the race. Kramers out a little bit too deep as they head back out to NASCAR 1.
Yeah, it's certainly a corner you do not want to get wrong, as Kramers there is now going to be under attack from Sen in the background for that 11th and 12th place. You've got to make sure you're nailing all the exits around here, because it's so important to take that speed onto the back straights. And Sen having a look towards the inside there in that Mercedes, having potentially half a think, but no, just lifting off a think, just losing that time to try and get the run out of the bus stop chicane. And it's one of those tracks that is absolutely relentless. And as you say, when you get towards that pit stop window, do you want to continue these battles or get into some clean air? I would potentially choose that clean air, because some of these battles are going to the absolute limit. We've already seen loads of cars going around, and you just don't want to get involved in it.
By the way, I will apologise. I think it's Grillig that had the damage that I was thinking of. There was actually Hennig that has the damage that I was thinking of and is out of the race. Same as with Rosen and Flachette as well. All three of those out of the race in the opening 15 minutes as we head into the middle portion of the race, where the pit window will open. Drivers can come in and serve their mandatory stop from now for the next half an hour. So they've got plenty of time to do so. And instantly, Julien Vigneron straight into the pit lane to serve it. Same with Rue Felipe as well. Obviously, I think it's more damage repair, but still, they're taking it off straight away.
Yes, certainly. It might be a good idea if you have that damage repair to just get yourself out of the way, not lose any more time. As Vertrick there getting up that place as these drivers still try and work their way out. And actually ahead of them is Ian Piper. I think he's got a bent rear wing there on that Mercedes. So certainly a lot of these damaged cars around as we've seen a lot of contact so far. But that's a little bit wide there from Brands Kulas, the Welsh driver, getting up the inside there of the Western Horseshoe.
So many opportunities to overtake around Daytona, down to T1, down to the bus stop. It's a bit more risky, but still, you can give it a go. Through there, I mean, we've seen plenty of moves going into there. It's a little bit more of an unforgiving place to go for an overtake because you'll tend to go in a little bit too deep and then open up the opportunity for them to come straight back through you on the run towards the bus stop. By the way, Rue Felipe might well have come into the pit lane to serve a damage repair, but he is out of the race. Decided maybe it was a little bit too much to get done and get back into this race. As we can see, it was Kulas getting to the outside. It's almost going to be 3 wide as well, with Brown looking to the inside. Vutrick trying to hang on to something, but look at that move from Kulas straight around the outside, the superior speed of that V8 Merc. Boom, up in a 17.
Just 20 seconds ago, you said, oh yeah, bus stop, not really a place you want to overtake, but that was a confident move there on the outside as well. Amazing to see. As we come back to Alex Mosen here, who's on the back of this battle we're watching, and he's had a torrid race of it so far. Coming into the pit lane, though, it looks like slowing down, get yourself down to that speed limit, because you don't want to come through for a drive-through penalty or even a stop-go for speeding, and that is looking like it's going to be a tough day for him to come back. But someone who's not having a tough day so far is Latkovsky, leading the way by 2.5 seconds, and it's really one of those cases, if you're out in the front, you want to go as late as possible, let everyone behind you pit, and basically open up the space for you to then pit into, and not get involved with anyone who's already pitted.
I mean, you were literally the second that Latkovsky came on screen, you were speaking about stop and goes and drive-throughs and needing to avoid it, and all I'm thinking back is to last round. Cody Nikola Latkovsky got speeding in the pit lane. So it was like very appropriate on the timing, but hopefully he'll be able to avoid that this round. I will say, pit entry wise, I always say it with Daytona, and it's no one seems to believe me because I feel like I'm speaking a different language. I would argue that the pit entry at Daytona is actually really quite difficult, because everyone's like, yeah, but it's so open, you've got so many opportunities and what, but you've got almost too much space, you've got too much reference. When you're coming into the pit lane, say for example coming down into the Hockenheim or Barcelona or something like that, you kind of come down to this narrow funnel. As much as it's difficult to kind of keep it on the road in that kind of scenario, you've got a lot more reference. You're slowing down almost before you've even got to the line at the Nürburgring and whatnot. It almost makes it a little easier rather than here where it's just kind of like, yeah, well, it's a big wide open pit entry because that's, it's a super speedway race, isn't it?
And I know this is obviously a one of the more well-known American tracks, but it's a very American pit entry with just how much tarmac there is. You're right, it's hard to get your reference of where to brake, and it's certainly one that we see quite a few drivers. We saw this in the 2.4 hours way back. It was in January, February earlier this year. We saw a lot of people doing a penalty around this track. Certainly not something that you want to do. And as you'll see on the tower, all the drivers with the green sort of icon at the very edge of their name, they are in the pit lane. And then once it just goes to a green line, that means they've served their penalty, or not their penalty, their mandatory pit stop, I should say, which is obviously something that they need to do. As we're seeing this battle now with Pfeiffer, I should say, coming out onto the back straight, trying to get onto Wittfurt for this battle for third.
Yeah, and hearing as well, unfortunately, that Florian Arendt had a bit of an internet issue recently also, so has dropped back down the order to 19th, which is a very big shame because they actually have a really, really good drive up until this point. So that is what the cool kids would classify as a solid F. Not a good day for them. I'm sure there's been plenty of issues, like for example the one that we have for Yuval Rosen, the retirement from the race after internet problems on their side. The technical issues of sim racing, unfortunately, those are the things that happen. As we can see, Pfeiffer versus Luciano Wittfurt. I mean, I will say, as much as all the talk has been between Pfeiffer and Vermeulen when it comes to the championship, do not count out Luciano Wittfurt. Anyone remember back to the race that he had at the Hockenheim Ring, where he was kind of up and down the order a lot? Well, he might be down the order a single position here, because Pfeiffer's going to try and go for it. Presently sat fourth in the championship, and his championship rival, the championship leader, squeezes his way straight around the outside to take over third position. And of course, Luciano Bitfoot was second to Pfeiffer at the previous round of the season, of course, when we went to the Red Bull Ring.
And that's just another place between Pfeiffer and Vermeulen as well, who's dropped off the battle, so that could potentially be big. But of course, we've still got 39 minutes to go and a pit stop to make, so all sorts of things can happen. But Vermeulen, if he wants to be in with a shout of this championship into that final race, he does need to be closing down this battle. 16 points as it stands, and if that increases any more, that is certainly going to be quite a difficult one. And of course, Vermeulen coming second last season as well to the very same driver who wants to be wanting to try and turn that around in season 2.
I say, I'm seeing this race is calming down quite a significant portion. We're still seeing a couple of groups of twos and whatnot, but the race generally has it's breathing a little bit at the moment. Might see Zabdir potentially, as I was saying, at Grunig and Kulas switch, or were battling for position rather coming into turn 7. There might at some point be a battle for the race lead. Depends on how Latkovsky is through the pit lane sequence, because Zabdir is holding very much stationary at about 2.5 seconds. And for me, that's sort of that's the pressure zone. 2.5 seconds. More than that, and you're outside it. 2.5 though, you're just about right. Meanwhile, we can see Nodge having a bit of an issue coming out onto the oval.
Yeah. Got to be careful with the gaps as well, you're right, because you can't let them get too big, because it just becomes so much more difficult to try and close that down a bit later on. You've got to be, especially around here, even though the track is so big, you want to be keeping them in your sights and trying to then potentially get closer and closer and just start to steal that slipstream, as we see Ian Pfeiffer here. Definitely, I don't know, the ribbing just doesn't look right on that car. Certainly had some issues as all. He gets a little bit caught out by, who's that, Martien there, going into the pit lane. So certainly some damage on that car, and I do wonder if that's hindering either the top speed or the balance in a way that he's going to struggle to come back with.
We'll say sometimes the damage can also be server side or broadcast side, so we can be seeing that there isn't actually any damage on the car. It could just be visual. We don't know with full certainty. Knowing Pfeiffer's pace earlier on in this race, I mean, he was battling it out with Pfeiffer, confusingly enough, over the first lap of the race. Meanwhile, backwards of him, Kulas having a bit of an issue coming out of the International Horseshoe. But Pfeiffer's pace has been plenty strong enough. I will say, though, as much as he might have dropped off potentially after the first couple of laps, compare his best lap there on the graphic on the bottom being a 1:49.194 versus his last lap was a 1:49.474. So realistically, is running at the pace that you expect, or kind of considering it almost seems like it's unaffected him. However, when you compare it to the likes of Zabdir, of Latkovsky, they're running, or their fastest lap is in the higher end of the 47s. So maybe the damage was before he set his personal best. I don't know.
Potentially. And of course, the slipstream with the amount of cars that are out there can help that in the opening portions of the race as well. But certainly the drivers now, as you say, they've got themselves roughly where they are in the train, and naturally the train extends and breaks up into these little packs over the course of the race. But these things generally start to try and come back together, especially if someone's trying something a little bit crazy on the strategy, although we haven't seen too many of the top drivers start to come in. But Kulas there, massive run out of NASCAR 4. That could potentially be the top speed. Of course, the slipstream coming into it, but that was a huge run there for Kulas as he gets past Pfeiffer there, coming through the tri-oval, and that was a rather easy place. I do wonder maybe Pfeiffer just losing some top speed, because that was quite an overspeed there.
Yeah, but I think better drive off of the bus stop, for example, is another that plus the slipstream. So I think from the Rookie Cup, the Formula 4 race that we had, obviously the highlights between these two, it was on yesterday. It was kind of the big thing that I noticed there is that when they came out of the final corner, there was 3 of them battling for the race lead, but they came out of the bus stop nose to tail, which means they had no hole to push their way into, meaning that the slipstream advantage, the overspeed, it wasn't enough to affect any change before they got to the line. That's kind of one thing you need to really think about. Sometimes you need to back off of the car ahead so you can punch your way into the slipstream. We're back to the battle for 15th position. We've got Arendt here trying to hang on from Borchardt, so this is 2 of our Audi R8 15th position at the moment. It does seem as though some of the internet woes that Arendt was having might seem to have been slightly rectified. Knock on wood, hoping that there aren't going to be any further problems, but still drop back to 15th. No, they've got speed. It's tough because you've done all the work earlier on in the race. Now you're kind of having to do this again. I've seen this from a few drivers that have kind of entered that boat. But that's how it goes, as I think Luciano Bitford and Pfeiffer switch positions because Pfeiffer's come into the pit lane.
They certainly has as Vermeulen and also into the pit lane. So a bit short of halfway, 34 minutes, probably about 33 by the time they come back out. And obviously they'll be trying to filter in. And this will be an interesting one to see exactly where they come out in terms of time, and then we can try and work out if they are catching the people with the newer tyres as well. That could potentially be an opportunity, as we're also seeing quite a few drivers start to come in now. Kramer's coming in, Vutric coming in as well. So loads of drivers starting to come in just short of halfway.
To be fair, I don't think they'll be switching tyres for a few reasons. They don't have to switch tyres. I think the minimum is 1 litre of fuel. They will probably put in a little bit more fuel than just 1 litre, but it's whatever ticks over, whatever's the minimum requirement. I don't believe there are any tyre requirements on this, and let's be honest, Daytona is not exactly the highest tyre wear circuit known to mankind. It's not super low. It's not as low as you'd almost assume. There is still plenty out there, but still. There is still fairly low in that sense. Never mind, I've been corrected. It's 2 tyres mandatory. I'll correct myself straight away. Boom. Cheers to Timo Leo straight in with a message being like, you're completely wrong. Shows what I know.
Yeah, it's certainly obviously the rules that you need to come up with as we get a speeding penalty for Kramer's. He was up in half decent position. He's going to have to come back in, and this is one of the longest pit lanes in the world as well, so it's not the place that you want to have a second trip through if you can avoid it.
Well, I don't remember where the line is, because for anyone who knows the real Daytona International Speedway, the line's changed as to where you can deactivate the pit lane. It's a very slow pit lane. I think it's only 60 kilometers an hour, if memory serves, in the pit lane. So it's very, very slow. We'll see actually as Williams comes into the pit lane. It is 60. Boom. I do know some things, but it's about where the deactivation point is, because obviously for quite a while, it literally was as you left the pit lane itself, like the major bulk of the pit lane where the NASCAR would do their pit stop, it would deactivate there. And I believe that is the case on this layout. But obviously it's moved further around now in real life, where you actually have to go around the first corner, then sort of through that zigzag, and then you can deactivate because of where they've moved. It's where they've moved the timing line or race control or something. They've moved something in real life, and so the pit lane, essentially the pit deactivator mark, became much later in the pit lane.
Yeah, I do believe here as well, it's around the corner. We'll see here from Williams. Yeah, I do believe you have to go around this corner, and I think it's maybe a safety thing. Yeah, with basically how tight this corner is, and you'll see the you get the cone up there where you deactivate it. So that whole length of the pit lane, then all the way around that corner, adding another sort of 100 meters or so, is all at 60 k's. And if you think the cars are blasting past there at top speed, so they are also gaining a lot of time, or a lot of distance, I should say, on you. So it's certainly probably the longest pit lane as Kramer's has. Is that DNF?
I think it would be.
Or is that crashed in the pit
lane? It is. I believe it's a retirement. Yeah. It is a retirement, yes.
That's a shame for him, obviously just not wanting to come back, but you can see why. With also all the drivers that have pitted, they're like a minute and a half off the race lead, such is how long it is around here as we come back to Borchardt has got up into 7th place, such is the way of the people making some pit stops as we get Chedron there, who is currently in 3rd place. He'll be dropping down, of course, as these guys start to stay out. Lakovsky leading the way by 9 seconds now as we get up to halfway in the race. He's still out as well, but as I mentioned earlier, I think he's waiting for everyone else behind him to pit so he can have a nice clean pit into no traffic.
Yeah, the big thing for him is not essentially what everyone else is doing. The only driver he really cares about will be Zabdir. that's the driver that really is the important one for him. Last lap time from Zabdir was a 2-minute 27 because it was an outlap, so we'll avoid that one. But we'll keep our eye on Zabdir's lap times over the next few to see if he's going to be closing in. I will say the last lap time for Cody Nikola Latkovsky, as you can see there, 48.275. So going very, very quickly, as we would expect from our race leader. But dependent on what Zabdir's times are, maybe the pressure will be added even when he doesn't know that it's being added, right?
Yeah, and I think it's actually going in the way of Latkovsky because Zabdir, who's in 6th place now, he just had to get past Noj there, who hasn't stopped yet. So basically, obviously it's a position on track, but it's also kind of a back marker effectively in the way. And that's slowed him down, obviously, just a little bit with our battle. And that means that Pfeiffer now is right on the back as well. So Pfeiffer's pulled away from Wittwer, having made the stop, and is coming for effectively 2nd place that Zabdir is in. So I wouldn't rule out Pfeiffer for coming back and potentially getting to Latkovsky, depending on how big that gap is.
Is he going for the triple? He's taken 2 victories this season, has Pfeiffer. He is your championship leader for a reason, and looking potentially for another one. You're absolutely right. Since he's cleared off, he has run away from Luciano Wittwer massively. He was about 2.5 seconds off the rear end of Zabdir, but you're absolutely right. Now being slowed down just a little bit by Noj. We pray that he comes to pit him, but never mind. Noj kind of jumps out of the way. Pfeiffer grabs over 7th position on the road. The yellow flag comes out in sector 3 because Grillig comes down into the pit lane. So just 5 cars yet to stop. Nikola Latkovsky, our race leader. Stratermans, Hout, Arendt. And then, of course, Noj, who's just dropped back behind Pfeiffer, who is now trying to attack again on the race down towards the first corner. This will not end well, so I think he might actually just back out of the attempt.
Yeah, I think it was just trying to go high there to not put off the championship leader too much. And as we say, this is 6th place, but this will turn out to be the battle for 2nd place. That Bentley on your screen and the McLaren ahead of Zabdir. That is going to be a tight battle, and we've got 28 still minutes to go to work out who is going to be in that 2nd place.
Well, Zabdir's just closed down our race leader by 0.2 of a second. Latkovsky did a 48.4. Zabdir did a 48.2. Pfeiffer did a 47.6. So he is not messing around right now. His fastest lap, he has the fastest lap of the race, does Pfeiffer, at a 47.4, and he's not a million miles away from that. So Pfeiffer is absolutely on a mission right now. Yellow flag back out in sector 3. I think it might be Lukic. He's in 24th, the Croatian driver, in a Ferrari, struggling a little bit and dropping back, as we can see Ian Piper with a rear wing repaired.
Oh, that's nice. That's a normal looking rear wing as your race leader, actually, of Latkovsky comes into the pit lane. Stratermans will stay out and take the lead, going well after the half an hour point. 33 minutes done in this race, 27 to go of this 1 hour race, and Stratermans will be holding on to that at least for a couple of laps. Where is Latkovsky going to come out, though, in relation to Zabdir? Was about 2.5 seconds before the pit stop sequence, but that was quite a while ago now. And on these new tyres, Zabdir may have been able to gain some time. We'll have to find out.
I think it might be about 1.5 seconds, as long as Latkovsky can nail the pit exit. We'll have to wait and see. Latkovsky, I believe, will be rolling at the moment towards the pit exit. There we go. It might cost him the race. It's going to be very, very tight. Latkovsky is going to be coming up towards the line. Where is Zabdir in all this? It's such a painful run. Zabdir's right there. Zabdir is right there. We could be having a 3-way fight back on for the race lead. Here comes Zabdir trying to take over it. It's going to be the net race lead heading over to Zabdir. A super pit lane sequence from him, and he's taken over 4th position, but it will become the race lead. Pfeiffer's right there. It is going to be a 3-way fight.
And that is what we want to see. Zabdir's gained about 2.5 seconds in that sequence, getting those newer tyres earlier and making them stick, even with Latkovsky with no traffic ahead of him, and Zabdir having to get past a couple of drivers. It really has worked out. The only issue is now the difference is now swapped. So Latkovsky has the fresher tyres to the end of the race, and he can try and make this work as Pfeiffer there having a real big slide. He's now right in this battle. Can he get 3 in a row? We're about to find out.
Sit in the slipstream for a little bit. I mean, maybe potentially cool his tyres down if he's going to hang the rear end out like that. It's McLaren, Bentley, 4th, 5th and 6th. It's a 720 versus a 650 versus the Bentley for what will potentially become the race lead, but that is still 25 minutes away. Certainly not done with drama. That was missing the first apex there through the bus stop from Zabdir, and he completely straight lined the final part of it. Could be a couple of issues before they come down towards the first corner, and potentially might well lose the race lead immediately. Or has he got a slowdown?
I don't know. I think he was trying to sort of defend from that, but he's getting a massive push. Is Latkovsky? This is going to be a double overtake, and it looks like Pfeiffer's getting through as well. Massive push draft. There's Latkovsky goes back to the net race lead. There's actually Pfeiffer who's going to try and get to lead himself after being way down on that first lap, dropping back so many places. Can the Bentley dive it into turn one? No, he can't. But Zabdir losing that place, now down to effectively third in the race once it all works out.
Pfeiffer's a very smart driver. I've seen him race plenty of times in RaceRoom and touring car competitions and whatnot. He's a feisty racer, but he's a wily I was going to say wily old fox. He's definitely not old. He's 18 years old these days is Pfeiffer. Plenty young enough to have the speed, but still old enough to have and mature enough to have the knowledge and racecraft. He is a tough race to try and take on. Hopefully we'll be able to see him out in the esports WTCR shootout as well. That will be next month. Cannot wait for that. But focusing on what is at hand, Latkovsky is your race leader. Not on track at the moment, because he's in 4th division. 5th is Pfeiffer, Zabdir in 6th. We are awaiting the final pit stops to come in from Strellemans, from Hout, from Arend, and from Noj, and then all of our field will have completed our pit window sequence. Piper, by the way, coming in as a retirement in the latter portions of this race.
Yeah, just unfortunate that list of DNFs is getting bigger, but this is going to be the race lead towards the inside. Max Pfeiffer going for the race lead. He was down in 8th place at one point, but he's now got up into effectively the race lead. 3 drivers still to pit, but that is a potentially crucial manoeuvre. He was held up a bit earlier with the likes of Vermeulen, with the likes of Vitfer, but this could be the big point in the race. Can Latkovsky do anything to come back? It looks like he is in the slipstream, so I don't think this battle is going to be over, but that's certainly a big point for Pfeiffer.
Yeah, this battle, if no drama happens between this lot, I see this battle going for the next 23 minutes, if I'm perfectly honest. It's so hard to break away from the slipstream when you've got a car just on the rear of you. It depends on how much you battle. If 2nd and 3rd, for example, if they battle, that will be enough for the race lead to check out, depending on who it will be. But right now, it is 3 for the race lead. It is Pfeiffer, Latkovsky and Zabdir. We did have a pit window sequence taken by Noj and by Hout. They still have 7 minutes left. It'll be when 15 minutes left to go in the race. That will be when the pit window closes. There's still plenty of time for Straightemans to come into the pit lane, and of course Florabian, who might well, before he comes into the pit lane, if he's not careful, might actually be caught by this 3. I don't think he's going that slow, so it shouldn't happen, but if there is any extra drama for him, he might well have to jump out of the way, essentially, of the 3.
Yeah, might have to indeed, and these things are going to obviously be worked out. Still 22 minutes left, and that still gives plenty of opportunities for them to sort of make back that time. But we'll have to see if staying out is actually going to work out, because you're going to have obviously fresher tyres at the end when everyone has more worn tyres, so that certainly could work out. Let's see how this one works out though for Pfeiffer coming towards the bus stop chicane. Latkovsky, we see him doing some bump drafting, or seeing other people I should say doing some bump drafting. Latkovsky hasn't really had traffic all day, but now he's in there. Is he going to start pushing away, try and make this into a 2-way battle, or is he going to try and get that track position himself and keep this battle going?
Yes, indeed. I don't know which position I want to be in right now. Everyone's like, oh no, I'd obviously rather be the lead. But to be fair, being that 3rd car, just being able to sit off this, let the drama happen, I almost feel in a battle like this, the 3rd car is actually the controlling factor. The top 2 can battle, fair enough. It's about what the 3rd car does. We're on board with that 3rd car in Zabdir right now, as there is going to be Latkovsky looking to the outside, a little bit of a brush between the 2 of them, and Pfeiffer manages to hang on to 3rd position. If these 2 battle ahead, it's no problem, it's no biggie. But it's about whether Zabdir fights too hard with Latkovsky. The answer to that question is yes, misses the apex ever so slightly, takes over 2nd position in the train, and that's Latkovsky pushed down to the rear. But I'd rather be the 3rd car right now, right at this very second. Obviously in 20 minutes time I'd rather be the 1st car, but right now I'd rather be the 3rd.
I think I would agree with you, and you can also almost like stay out of the way in some ways, which is probably the safer factor. As long as you're just getting pulled along, we saw this. Was it a Sandstrom in the previous race? The WTCRs did this, sat behind that battle as well. But you just have to remember to keep yourself in the game. And keep yourself there for when we get to the final few laps. So I would agree with you. I think third place at this moment in time, with the amount of time that we got left in the race, that's probably the safest option.
I think safety is critical. Right, like I say, you want to take the safest option, especially if you're Pfeiffer even. You're thinking not just of the race, you're thinking of the championship as well. We're still early doors, and we've only completed 2 races. We're over halfway through the season now, well over halfway, approaching the final round rapidly somehow. And so you've got to play that slightly long game. We'll move our way back though into the fight. Martijn Brown, you've got Kulash, you've got Prinder, Vustricht as well. It's quite a tight little grouping here towards the mid-pack of the field, really. And again, it's what we expect from this level of fighting. Meanwhile, Pfeiffer's lost out what will be the race lead over to Zabdir, and potentially second in the race to Latkovsky. He's going to try and squeeze his way around the outside, going through the first corner, up through 2, and that could be the 650S of Cody Nikola Latkovsky, up into 3rd overall in the race, but 2nd when it comes to the main fight for the win. Meanwhile, Zabdir's made a mistake, so never mind on that one.
These guys are going to change position every single lap. Side by side, McLaren action, the 2 types of McLarens, but there's actually going to be just there Latkovsky having to drop back in. Zabdir, we thought he potentially was out of this fight at one point, but no, he's not. He's coming back into it. And just showing you how important the slipstream is around here. And it's great to see these battles just continue. You don't know who's going to be leading lap after lap, and you can go from 1st to 3rd or 3rd to 1st very quickly indeed. And it's cool to see 3 different chassis. Of course, the 2 McLarens still having some similarities, but still having a different BOP, all fighting towards the front.
Which McLaren do you prefer?
Oh, in terms of looks, the new one.
The 720, really?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Have you still got that video of me trying to climb out of the 650?
I do, and it is
nice.
very funny. We were just mentioning this earlier, just how low it is to the ground. When you stand next to it in real life, I swear it's just like up to your hips. It's crazy how low these cars are, and just really trying to use every bit of aerodynamic gain they can have. Although in some ways it doesn't matter with the BOP, and that Bentley is still just as fast in the straight line.
Yeah, and it is massive comparatively. It's interesting how things have switched over. We had a McLaren, or is it a McLaren? Between 2 Bentleys, and now we've got a Bentley trying to fight out with 2 McLarens. So very much switched away in the 3-way fight. Meanwhile, still Florian Arend hanging on to the race lead, waiting for that pit stop, waiting. I think this will be the last lap that Arend can go before the pit window sequence really has to be taken. So we'll see the Austrian down onto the lane in no time, and this will become the fight for the race lead. Meanwhile, Zabdir's making a little bit of a hash brown of it at the moment and going out a little bit wide.
Hash brown, what about a salad box to go with that one as we come towards the kink for this time around? And it looks like Latkovsky there just having to slide back in for that second time, although around the outside now maybe of the Western Horseshoe. That's going to allow Pfeiffer to come down the inside in that Bentley. The track position very important here at this point of the track. Bit of contact between the 2. Unfortunately, they keep in a straight line, but that could have been quite crucial for this fight. But it looks like they are all going without any issues.
We've seen some hefty smashes and crashes today. That would have added to the list, but I mean, to be fair, that would be one that I'm desperate for there not to be. That adds to this. I want to see this 3-way fight go to the line right now. I don't honestly, I don't care who comes out on top. I just want to see a great race. I want to see a tactical race. I want to see them outsmarting each other on that run to the line. Whether you want to be third, whether you want to be second, whether you want to be the race leader. I mean, in the Formula 4s, again, the rookie that were on yesterday, and obviously very, very different cars. Those being 160 brake horsepower, little open wheelers and whatnot. But still, Villa Cravey came out of the bus stop as the race leader and came across the line as the race leader. I'm not actually sure that would be the strategy today, because let's see this time. So we've got Zabdir, who would, let's say this is going up towards a checkered flag, a dress rehearsal, so to speak. He would be hanging on to what would be the race lead, and he'd just about get it squeezed squeezing though straight onto the double yellow, right onto where that pavement meets. Zabdir hanging on to the race lead, what it will become now. Pfeiffer straight around the outside trying to steal it though. He's going to have to hang on all the way around the first corner. He's got the inside for 2, he's going to have the inside though for the international horseshoe. It's going to be a big moment for Pfeiffer to try and take it, but Zabdir switches over the front end of that Bentley, and look at this, 3 wide off the corner, straight with the up and under. Cody Nikola Latkovsky comes through to potentially steal it.
Amazing racing between these guys, and somehow they stay in the same order. It's crazy to see just the battling that we've had here around Daytona. 45 minutes down as well, 15 to go, and these guys still battling as if it's the final lap. And it's great to see these guys just pushing each other to the limit. Pfeiffer there just going too deep into the horseshoe and allowing the 2 drivers to come back up the inside. Latkovsky going for the lead but wasn't able to do so. Trying to make up there on the brakes was Pfeiffer, but just losing a few car lengths in the end.
If they do fight too hard, by the way, they might potentially drag Luciano Wittfoot into it. If they do fight really, really hard, particularly through the central sector of the track, they might lose enough time where Luciano Wittfoot and his Bentley, you can see just in the background there, might be dragged into it, or potentially even a move into the bus stop, which would not be the wisest one from that far back from Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Whilst there is some brakes being used heading through the fast left, right, left, not really enough to warrant what would be classified as a dive bomb. But Zabdir though hangs on to the race with 14 minutes left to go. Should be roughly 7, potentially on the pace they're going. Should be 8 laps left to go in this race. Plenty of time for there to be many, many more switches for the race lead. Meanwhile, a bit of bump drafting going into effect as Nikola Latkovsky tries to push Zabdir a little bit as they try and break the slipstream of Pfeiffer.
Yeah, they certainly are indeed, but it looks like that Pfeiffer is going to be able to come up on the back of these drivers. That Bentley's certainly fast enough in a straight line as it is, let alone with the double slipstream that he will be getting in that car. But Zabdir is still leading the way now, of course, with everything out of the way, as pit window has closed, but everyone is out of the way anyway, as these drivers once again battling coming towards this middle sector. But it's actually interesting to notice that they've been in this order for quite a few laps now, even though they sort of battle a little bit, but it always seems to come back to this Zabdir Latkovsky Pfeiffer battle. At some point, that's going to need to change around.
I mean, every time we ride on board with Pfeiffer, I'm seeing some moments where I'm getting concerned. I know the skill, the racecraft of Pfeiffer is incredible, but I'm seeing a couple of mistakes. Missing that apex, didn't need it. That's fine. Classic. We've seen a few apexes. We've seen a few little mistakes from Pfeiffer creeping in. Now, that's not too bad, but it only takes one mistake at the right time to just tip it over the edge, and boom, suddenly you've gone from battling for the race lead, battling for the championship, to potentially not being a part of it.
Yeah, it can turn around so easy. And I'll tell you what, that was a bit of a bad exit though, or entry I should say, for Zabdir. Latkovsky getting the run, but Pfeiffer has dropped off the back of this, potentially enough with some push drafting to not be back in this. We'll have to see when we get towards the start finish line. Of course, a massive 2-kilometer run all the way to the finish line, and Latkovsky is pushing the fellow McLaren ahead of him towards the line. Pfeiffer there in the background isn't closing in too much. If anything, he's actually starting to lose some time, and it looks like Latkovsky is trying to turn this into a 2-way battle, and it seems to be potentially working. Let's see how it works out through the road course part of this lap this time around.
Zabdir in too hot though into T1, making a bit of a costly mistake. Latkovsky's going to try and go for it. All that bump drafting's all well and good, but you've got to hit the apex, and that is not what Zabdir did. I was saying this before though, even last week in a race that's actually happening around here in another series, is sometimes when you're going into turn 1 and you've got someone directly on your rear and they're bump drafting you, they're pushing you, that's all well and good, but they've got to brake quite a lot earlier for the first corner to give you the room to not make a mistake. Unless, of course, that's Latkovsky's plan in all of this, to sit there, to push, to put that pressure on and try and force a mistake.
You're right. When you're the leading driver and you have the second place driver right behind you pushing you effectively into the braking zone, it just makes you want to brake that little bit later, because you know if you brake early, they're just going to bump into the back of you and cause an accident. So that can really start to put the pressure on and try and make the driver ahead make a mistake. And I think that's what Lekowski is trying to do, as Zabdir now is still holding away, coming towards the bus stop once again. Lekowski getting closer and closer, I think just lifting off a little bit, but Pfeiffer is closing in this background. I thought it was going to be a two-way battle, but no, the slipstream once again just pulls you in and keeps you in a battle around here at Daytona.
I think any hope, by the way, of Lucianovic rejoining this fight has gone, because he's dropped back even into the clutches of Vermeulen to the battle for second in the championship. Going to be pretty tight. By the way, whilst all this is going on, Killian Hout and Chris Williams, 9th and 10th at the moment, are having a pretty tight fight as well. Daytona Championship. So we might well see a few little fights and a few drag races up towards the line for a few of these spots as we race our way around. As we can see, Latkovsky's trying to, I was going to say he's going to try and go for it, but actually I think he's just being a bit patient. Second consecutive lap mistake from Zabdir. Could this be Latkovsky retaking over the race lead? Yes, it is. So the 650S, that bright orange McLaren, boom though, straight down the inside. Zabdir sends it way too deep, opens the door for the switchback from Nikola Latkovsky, and there's going to be a little bit of brush as well as Pfeiffer's trying to march his way through up towards the kick. This could be a tight moment. The big Bentley, got to go around the outside through this. Kick on the inside though for the West Horseshoe, and Zabdir two laps in a row making that mistake, but 2 consecutive corners making mistakes and missing the apex, and the race lead then slips out of his fingers.
He's got to be careful not to continue that run of turn ones, because that is certainly the most important braking zone really of the track. And in turn 2, I think that was more of an attempt rather than just making a mistake. But as you say, just going too wide, giving Pfeiffer that place. But once again, they can't battle it now and let Latkovsky get away. It's really these three-way battles are really interesting, because you can often just focus on one driver, but you've got to think about 2 drivers and keep yourself collectively within the battle. As we get towards 9 minutes to go now, so just about 5 laps or so towards the end.
I said before about Killian Hout and Chris Williams, 2 of them switched positions a couple of times there. You can see on the leaderboard, 9th and 10th at the moment. It goes the way of Chris Williams, who's in that Mercedes AMG, as we'll look at that now. It's Hout on the inside in the black and gold McLaren. Roker's to be fair, isn't a million miles off the rear end, so it could be the fight for the final car within the top 10 positions. It's going to be a tight fight between these two up towards the bus stop. Hout with the inside line, Williams with the outside, but the straight line speed advantage from the AMG, just enough to keep him clear, as it is now another one of those lovely 3-way fights that we've spoken about.
Yeah, and 3-way fights with 3 different chassis as well. This time, as you said, the Mercedes AMG. And then the Callaway Corvette in the background trying to get involved, but this time around at the front, Latkovsky going a little bit deep, and Pfeiffer getting in behind him now, with Zabdir right on the back of these guys, and Viva has closed in about a second or so overall with this battle, so certainly getting slowing each other down just a little bit is this battle at front, but they know just how important it is as Williams defends towards turn 1 this time around. Hout's trying to get closer and closer, but Williams holds on once again, as these battles are certainly going to go towards the finish. And as you said, I think it's going to be a bit of a photo finish with the slipstream coming towards the start-finish line.
Now, this is where the big question is. We've said before about where do you want to be earlier on the race, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, do you want to, as in, you know, what position in a grouping do you want to hold? Now we're approaching the checkered flag. Your thoughts on where you are now? It's where you're going to be in 7.5 minutes' time. Pfeiffer doesn't care about any of that because he's going straight for the race lead coming up towards the bus stop. And Nikola Latkovsky backs out of it to allow the big Bentley to take over the race. He's got a little bit too deep into the bus stop. So Pfeiffer, looking for 3 in a row, will take over the race lead from Cody Nikola Latkovsky. My question to you, Cameron Rodger, now, what position do you want to be in? Do you want to be the leader? Do you want to be second? Or do you want to be third?
I think I would be second place coming towards the line. Yeah. I really do think I'd want to be in that position, but it just depends. Now, when there's still a few laps left, do you want to do what Latkovsky is doing and push draft, try and pull away, make it a 2-way battle, or do you want to keep it a 3-way battle, be the second car and try and get a push towards the line and have a bit of a friend trying to help you? That is the important part. It's difficult to obviously lay that down in positions that obviously maybe diving it to the inside. We've also seen a battle for 4th place there, Viv and Vermeulen swapping places, so battles all over the top 5. This is great to see.
Yeah, Lucianovic trying to hang on to 4th place in the race, ahead of his rival potentially for 2nd in the champion, because Vermeulen is that driver at the moment, Luciano Littler, who dropped a few points at the 1st round of the season, of course, back in the Hockenheim ring after a few issues, had to rise up the order, had to then drop down the order, had to then rise back up the order, I think then dropped down with a and then had a spin. He did a full 360, if anyone remembers, did a full 360 in the kink before heading into the arena section, didn't lose a single spot, kept going. Brilliant stuff, top level racing. And again, I will say, despite what some real world drivers have told me, that is not a save. If the car has done a 360 or a 180 or whatever, and just because you point it back going the right way, that is not a save. It's just cool. But alas, we'll discuss that another day. I would also want to be 2nd, but I would want to be pushing whoever the leader is right now. I wouldn't want it to be a 3-way fight towards the line. You've got to think of it, again, championship terms, or even just race terms. If you push that driver, regardless, you're going to finish 1st or 2nd. Not, 3rd's no longer a part of the equation. You're going to finish 1st or you're going to finish 2nd. Meanwhile, with that 3rd part being, well, that adds an extra position, an extra gamble almost to the fight. Well, maybe a bit of a dress rehearsal here towards the line. Pfeiffer with the inside line, up towards it. Who would lead? It would be a photo finish that would go the way of Pfeiffer if that is how they cross the line. 5 minutes left to go, 3 laps left at the Daytona International Speedway.
And I was just looking at the championship. We've got Lakowski 14th place, only done 1 race so far. Zabdir 18th place, only done 1 race so far. They're not in this championship fight. So these are basically 3 positions, I would see it, for Pfeiffer if he can stay ahead. If he drops down to 3rd place, with Vermeulen in 5th, that's only obviously 2 positions. Whereas if Pfeiffer can stay ahead, with Vermeulen still down in 5th, this is going to be a pretty slam dunk championship for Pfeiffer coming into that final race. And these are going to be so important, as we've finally seen now to be getting up there, getting involved in this battle, as well as Hout dropping down as Williams still holds on for that 9th place. For Pfeiffer, I think these are such crucial places because the gap is just going to be so big coming into the final round.
Yeah, as here we go. So here comes the switch potentially. Cody Nikolakowski trying to get back through into the race. I think Pfeiffer's still able to hang on. It is going to be a 3-way fight. There is going to be 2 laps left to go at the line. It could be 3 wide though up towards the bus stop because Latkovski was trying to look to the outside. Zabdir is now going to send it. He is going to try and make it stick. He's got up in the 2nd position. Latkovski drops back to 3rd in the train. Pfeiffer hangs on to the race lead as we head back out to finish the 3rd to last lap. We'll be heading on to the penultimate one now.
As we come towards the penultimate lap, as you say, this is the important time. Where are you going to put yourself on this lap to then start the final lap? One more time around until we get to that place. This could be important. Zabdir to the outside, trying to get a run, trying to get back to the lead. He's sat there in 3rd place for a while now after leading for quite some time as Latkovski is coming and coming. There goes Zabdir to the front. Pfeiffer, is he going to challenge this back in towards turn 1? Latkovski coming towards the outside. 3-way battle for the lead is great to see, but Zabdir back to front holds on as we come in towards the middle sector.
This is going to be very, very interesting right now because, of course, we've got all of the questions when it comes to the balance of these cars, the drivers between them, the mentality going. Are we going to see a clean drag race to the line? Are we going to deal with some drama? Are we going to deal with a bold scent coming through the bus stop? Again, as we've discussed before, whether you want to be 1st, 2nd or 3rd within these trains, I want to be 2nd, and I want to almost back off of that lead car going through the bus stop, so I've got a lot of time to press into. By the way, Rokas to be Williams and Hout were all switching positions. Rokas to be going up to the 9th position in that battle towards the back end of the top 10. Williams still hanging on to the final position of the top 10, and like I said before, Hout being just outside of it at the moment. It's going to be a very tight run for all of these, and like I said, we're going to get more than one drag race.
Absolutely, this is going to be great to see. 2-way slipstream now getting a bit of a push, and this could be important. Can't let Zabdir get away too far. Coming on to the final race, 2 minutes to go and just 1 1/4 laps left here at Daytona, and we don't know who's going to lead coming towards the line, but that was a huge late braking maneuver for Pfeiffer. Keeps him in the slipstream, brings him back into this, and as we come on to the start, the final lap, let's see who is going to choose to lead and who is going to sit in 2nd place.
And it is a choice. It really is. Anyone's like, oh, well, no, of course they're going to be fighting over it tooth and nail. No, there is a lot of choice. There's so much strategy about racing at the World Centre of Racing and who wants to lead. Pfeiffer's got a lot on his shoulders. He's looking for consecutive victories. Zabdir hanging on to the race lead as we cross the line to start the final lap of the race. Zabdir potentially defending quite aggressively here on Pfeiffer, who might just open the door potentially. Zabdir's made a mistake. He's going to run wide. Pfeiffer's going to take over the race lead on the final lap, the final time through T1. Pfeiffer takes over the race lead. Nikola Latkovsky in second. Zabdir then drops to third.
And this is big plays for Pfeiffer in the championship. Of course, we said if he keeps ahead of these two drivers, that is going to be a big points advantage over the likes of Vermeulen, who'll be there sitting in that second place. He leads as we come towards the West Horseshoe now on this final battle, and this could be quite big for Latkovsky with Zabdir being so far behind. He's not going to get a push to the line. He's going to have to do this on his own. And when we saw that before, it was Pfeiffer who came out on top. But what can Latkovsky do? Can he be smart with how he plays this with his car positioning coming into the bus stop? Because that's going to be the crucial part of this lap.
Well, deep breaths, ladies and gentlemen, because it is going to be a big run. Sure, the time is ticking down, 20 seconds left to go in this, but this is the final lap, the final attempt. We've seen plenty of moves down into the bus stop. It could be just a two-way fight between Latkovsky and Pfeiffer. Zabdir a little bit too far off the rear, but it all depends on what Latkovsky does up towards the bus stop. Is he going to go for it or is he going to back off? Putting on a defensive line there is Pfeiffer, maybe going for a little bit of a slow exit. Zabdir is going to be back a part of this. Pfeiffer looking for 3 consecutive victories to open up the RaceRoom Ranked Championship Season 2 of 2022. We depart the final corner. We head round NASCAR 3 and 4. Pfeiffer's done a lot of work today to try and take over it. They head towards the line right now. Can Cody Nikola Latkovsky do it as he's taken pole position? He's in the slipstream. He's gone to the inside, slightly below the double yellow. Is it going to be the race lead though? The big Bentley on the outside. There's contact between the two, and Nikola Latkovsky at the line does it by 200ths of a second, just ahead of Pfeiffer, just ahead of Zabdir. An intense three-way fight for the race victory, and the Macedonian comes out on top and denies the three-peat.
That was huge from Latkovsky. He actually did the best thing with dropping back in the middle of the bus stop, and that gave him the massive run, the massive slipstream, and the overspeed that he needed. If he was too close, he wouldn't have had that overspeed. So great strategic play there by Latkovsky. And let's see who is going to come out on this other one second time round. Williams also dropping back, getting the run towards the line. Hout trying to defend for this ninth place. Williams to the line isn't going to have enough to make it, and Hout holds on in that other photo finish towards the line. It's great to see these battles at Daytona.
Yeah, that was a very big moment indeed. Like I said before, Vermeulen up into fourth, so that was a pretty big one for him for second. The champion will hang on to that second spot, I do believe. Brown, though, with a bit of a drag race of his own with Martijn as well, up towards the line. It'll go the way of the German, and the virtual drivers by TX3 man will have to settle for 15th position in Martijn, is what it is. We've seen plenty of issues for Christophe Noj throughout this race, but Julien Vigneron, who got a bit of damage, is also going to try and gain an extra little spot up towards the line. But it's a big one for me because it's that final spot inside the top 20. I've said before, when it comes to some battles, there are some positions that are regarded higher than others. You've got obviously the race win, and you've got the final step on the podium. You know, second or third, I'll take it. It's a podium, fair enough. Fourth or fifth, it's a top 5, I take it. Anywhere between 6th and 10th, to be honest, I don't care, as long as it's inside that top 10. And it's kind of the same in this. I'll take pretty much any position between 11th and 20th because a top 20 is a top 20. We'll take a look, though, at the finishers. Pfeiffer taking the victory. According to that, have there been... Oh, I think it's because people have left. We're not going to panic too much. I believe it's because people have left. So we'll ignore this and we'll move on.
Yeah, I do hope that
unless there has been something else.
I wonder if Latkovsky had a penalty, but he wasn't able to serve it because he dropped down to 8th place. That could be huge as well, with those extra 6 points going the way of Pfeiffer. But it could be the fact that Latkovsky maybe got a drive-through penalty, didn't serve it, and now it's added it at the end of the race.
Yes, that could indeed be the case. We'll have to double-check on that one. So Pfeiffer could be doing the three-peat and all of that. Zabdir in second, Vermeulen third. Because the rest of the order does seem to line up. I think you're absolutely right. You're a smart boy, Cam. That's why you've got the university degree and I don't. But Latkovsky, yes, could potentially have been delivered a penalty on the line, which would deny him a victory and make it a three-way. That'd be hard to get in the highlights, so thanks for that.
Yeah, it looks like, he was given a slowdown penalty and wasn't able to serve it, potentially, I guess, through the chicane on that final lap. And that just shows you how racing drivers are. He probably saw it on his screen and thought, I'm still going to go for this, still going to get the slipstream, trying to battle for it. But he put on a great battle anyway. And Lakowski, unfortunately, in those 2 races here in the Red Bull Ring 3 weeks ago, wasn't able to really get onto that podium as he would have wanted, but putting on such great performance and really making Pfeiffer work for it.
Yeah, I am. There is talk of it potentially being below the double yellow line, but that doesn't matter around here. That does obviously on the oval when you're racing around this. You can't go below the double yellow. But when you're racing around, I don't believe there's any requirement to stay above. You can go below it, stay above it, whatever you want to do to kind of take that shorter line to the line. We see it even in real life sometimes when it comes to racing around the roval, so to speak. I am having it confirmed by Mr. Timo Lino himself that it is a confirmed penalty, 100%. So Latkovsky, not sure what it's for, but definitely a penalty. So it is the three-peat for Pfeiffer heading into the final round of the season. Just one more. It'll be in 3 weeks' time as we head slightly south of where we are. Of course, Daytona International Speedway being in Florida in the United States. Quite a bit south of that, into the southern hemisphere, into Interlagos, into one of the most populous city in the world. Love a bit of Sao Paulo, love a bit of Interlagos. Absolute classic track and a great way for a season finale, isn't it?
Absolutely, and a fairly new track to RaceRoom as well. So it's good to see a new addition in that regard. Great place to finish any championship, and it's going to be potentially going the way of Max Pfeiffer quite nicely. But the other championships, it is so close indeed. So I can't wait to see what is happening in 3 weeks' time.
Wow, what a season it has been. So much action for you to follow over the next few weeks, of course. If you can all follow it on social media. You've got the start of the esports WTCR shootout as well, which will be beginning next month. That one's definitely something to look forward to. But we're nearly at the end of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship of Season 2 of 2022. I've been Lewis McGlade. Cam Rodger's been alongside me, of course, in the commentary booth. And we did have Ewan O'Leary a little bit earlier on. Catch up all the highlights as well on all social medias, on all YouTube, all over the place. It's going to be fantastic to see what's actually happened behind the scenes of the race. But until next time, from us in the commentary booth, we'll see you. Bye-bye.